Chapter 1404. The eastern sea reflected the white of the sky, and another morning arrived. In the international waters, in a single room inside the yacht Erebos, Mengyu, who had already woken up, looked at everything around her with hatred. She couldn't remember what happened last night, only that she was knocked out after the explosion, but there was no doubt that it was Yang Cheng who brought her here. In other words, the game between her family and Yang Cheng had been won by Yang Cheng again, and she had most likely become a hostage. Her phone was no longer with her, and she couldn't contact her family. She didn't dare to go out rashly because there was a boundless sea outside, and there was even a frigate sailing beside the yacht. She knew that it was almost impossible to escape. The door was pushed open, and a white woman wearing a blue-made uniform walked in. She looked to be in her 50s, and there were many wrinkles on her face. "Miss Meng, you're awake. Welcome to Erebos. I'm Cheryl, who is in charge of your meals." The plump Cheryl smiled very amiably, pushed the breakfast cart to the dining table, and placed the exquisite Western-style breakfast on the table. Mengyu asked in English, "Is this Yang Cheng's territory?" Cheryl answered without hesitation, "His Majesty Pluto's Huaxia name is indeed Yang Cheng. Did he ask you to take care of me?" Mengyu looked at the breakfast, and it didn't look like it was for a hostage. Cheryl smiled and said, "Don't panic. We don't know about the unhappiness between Miss Meng and His Majesty Pluto. We're just doing our duty to entertain the guests on the ship. Because His Majesty Pluto didn't give any special orders and only asked Miss Meng to stay on the ship, we will treat you as a guest." Mengyu didn't believe that ruthless and overbearing man would have any good intentions. When she had just woken up, she felt that her body had taken some medicine that made her muscles weak and weak. Fortunately, her internal energy was good, and she could recover her fighting strength after half an hour of detoxification. Maybe there were other toxins in the breakfast, just to make her obediently surrender. Mengyu looked at Cheryl's plump body and her defenseless appearance. A cold light flashed in her beautiful eyes, and a plan came to her mind. "Cheryl, what delicious food did you bring me?" Mengyu revealed a gentle smile and walked to Cheryl's side. "Oh, I'm sure you'll like it. Our head chef, Old Fanny, makes apple pie toast." Halfway through her sentence, Shirley felt something tighten around her neck. Mengyu had quickly grabbed her from the side. He picked up an expensive silver table knife and pressed it against Cheryl's throat. "Don't move. Get me out of here. Otherwise, I will slit your throat." Mengyu felt a burst of excitement in her heart. She had captured a hostage and completed the first step of her escape. Shirley showed a helpless expression, but she did not panic at all. "Miss Meng, why are you doing this? This is the Erebos. You can't escape." Cheryl felt a little regretful. "Don't talk nonsense to me. Get out. I want to get my phone back and have someone send me back to the territorial waters of Huaxia." Mengyu's knife was even tighter against Shirley's skin. Cheryl sighed slightly. "Child, you will regret this." As soon as she said that, Cheryl's elbow was like a cannonball, striking backwards at lightning speed, shaking off Mengyu's arm that was holding the knife. Mengyu only felt a sharp pain in her arm. Before she could react, her feet were in the air. She was actually put down by a hook kick. Cheryl's fat body seemed to have turned into a super combat mecha with nuclear power in an instant. It was strong and powerful, as fast as lightning. Mengyu exclaimed. Cheryl's fat body actually sat on her waist, pressing her firmly onto the carpet, clapping her hands. Shirley turned around and looked at Mengyu, who was so embarrassed that she was about to cry. She smiled and said, "I forgot to tell you, Miss Meng. Everyone on the Erebos retired from zero. Although we are all old bones, it is still possible for us to deal with an ordinary inner force martial artist." You're a killer?" Mengyu cried out helplessly. "That's in the past. I'm now a maid on this yacht." Cheryl smiled amiably. Dressed in a pink sakura kimono, Hanya walked in from outside the door. Looking coldly at Mengyu, who was on the ground, Hanya said disdainfully, "You want to escape from here? Everyone here used to occupy the top 50 places on the global assassin ranking. You're simply delusional." Last night, Henya had keenly sensed that the people on this ship were not ordinary. After asking Old Fanny, Hanya already knew that these maids were actually extraordinary. Mengyu wanted to die. Who would have thought that a famous killer in the underground world would be willing to come here to be some waitress? Huaxia has a saying that suits you very well. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. I will let you see the price of trying to escape. After bowing respectfully to Cheryl, Hanya grabbed Mengyu. Under Hanya's strength, Mengyu had no ability to resist and was tightly held down. Seeing Hanya take Mengyu away, Cheryl helplessly shook her head and drew a cross on her chest, mourning for a certain child. On the wide deck outside the yacht, Yang Cheng was holding the phone that old Fanny had gotten for him, contacting Lu Mingyu, who was in China. Mingyu, darling, listen to me. Your parents will definitely be fine. I was just about to settle the score with those old fellows from the Meng family. Their direct descendant granddaughter is in my hands. They won't dare to hurt your parents. Don't be impulsive. You won't be able to save your parents even if you go. You'll only mess things up. Listen to me. Didn't you and Chinny just quit your job? I'll send someone to bring you to the Mediterranean. Okay? Xiangwei and Ning are also there. Hey, you. Don't look like you're about to cry. Early in the morning, when Lu Mingyu received a message from Yang Cheng, she was extremely worried. After all, her biological parents were captured, and she couldn't return home. Yang Cheng was also hiding overseas. She felt as if half the sky was about to collapse. Yang Cheng tried his best to persuade her for a while, and finally calmed the woman down. After making Yang Cheng promise that there wouldn't be any accidents, she accepted the suggestion of going to the Mediterranean for a temporary vacation. As for how to bring the two women over, it wasn't difficult for Yang Cheng, and it wouldn't take much effort to send a private plane. After making the call, Yang Cheng glanced at Mengyu, who was looking at him stubbornly on the deck, and asked Hanya, "What's wrong with her?" "Master, she wants to take Miss Cheryl hostage to escape," Hanya said truthfully. Yang Cheng was currently in a fit of anger. He had escaped far away, ran to the high seas, and didn't even dare to go back. Wasn't it all because of this group of old fellows from the Meng family? Now that he didn't dare to use his cultivation, he couldn't deal with the old ones, and you, a young one, dared to threaten him to escape? Looking at Meng Yu's enchanting and beautiful face that didn't want to admit defeat, Yang Cheng sneered a few times and said, "Let me ask you, why did the Meng family suddenly change their attitude and want you to marry me? You better answer me obediently. I'm not in a good mood right now." "Bah, you're in a bad mood? This young miss is even worse. Yang Cheng, you sneak attacked me. What kind of man are you? Do you have guts to take a woman as a hostage? I think you're only a so-so. Let me tell you, if you have the guts, kill me. I'll wait for Lu Qingshan and his wife to be buried with me." Mengyu mocked. Yang Cheng's face darkened. This woman was really stubborn. If this was a woman he liked, this would be called Sundara, but this was his enemy, so he could only say that she didn't know how to appreciate favors. With a big stride forward, Yang Cheng grabbed Mengyu and turned this woman 180 degrees. Mengyu's legs were grabbed by Yang Cheng, and her body was upside down. She tried to use her fists and palms to attack Yang Cheng's legs, but Yang Cheng mercilessly kicked her in the chest. "Ah!" Mengyu cried out in pain. 2 of the ribs in her chest were broken. The pain made her cry out in grievance. Since she was young, she had always been a proud daughter of the heavens. There was actually a man who didn't hesitate to destroy a flower and just kick her. "Yang Cheng, you will die a horrible death." Mengyu wanted to eat this man. "Up to you." Yang Cheng walked to the front of the yacht as if he was carrying a little chick. He threw down a rope from the side and dropped it into the sea, tying it to the hull of the yacht. Mengyu felt a numbing pain on her white legs. Yang Cheng had actually used his bare hands to cut a few wounds, and a dark red liquid flowed out. "You!" Without waiting for Mengyu to say anything, Yang Cheng loosened his grip and directly threw Mengyu into the sea. Splash! The seawater was bone-chilling. Although Mengyu had internal energy to protect her body, she was still so cold that her gums were trembling. The drenched woman couldn't think too much and subconsciously grabbed the rope that fell from the yacht. Since the yacht wasn't moving, it wasn't difficult for her to grab it. However, the wound on her leg was still bleeding. Once it was soaked in sea salt, it immediately felt as if it was being torn apart. Meng Yu's delicate body trembled as she raised her head and looked at Yang Cheng with incomparable hatred. "What are you trying to do?" An ominous premonition made Meng Yu's heart turn cold. Yang Cheng said indifferently, "Nothing much. It's just that you're a bit disobedient as a hostage. I think it's more reliable to send some good brothers to take care of you instead of sending people to keep an eye on you." Good brothers? Meng Yu wasn't stupid. Feeling the pain from a wound on her leg and the loss of blood, she couldn't help but have a terrifying thought. "There's sharks here?" Meng Yu exclaimed. Yang Cheng shrugged his shoulders and reached out to call Hanya over. He ordered, "You stay here and watch her. If she wants to climb up, she must answer the question I just asked and promise to kowtow to me. Otherwise, you can kick her down." Hanya's heart was inexplicably happy and quickly agreed, "Yes, master." Yang Cheng didn't care anymore and walked straight back to the cabin. He hadn't had time to eat breakfast yet. Old Fanny had specially prepared a welcoming breakfast, so he had to finish it. Meng Yu, who was holding the life-saving rope in the sea, turned pale. If she had to kowtow to Yang Cheng and admit her mistakes, she might as well kill her. This was a matter of the dignity of the Meng family. If he really shot her, she wasn't afraid, but when she thought of being bitten and dismembered by a group of sharks, she felt a chill and found it even more difficult to accept. Hanya stood at the bow of the ship and looked at her coldly. She was somewhat looking forward to it. Meng Yu raised her head and tempted Hanya. "You and I are both women. Why do you want to work for that devil? He is just using you to help him do things. If you help me escape, our Meng family will not treat you unfairly. How about it?" Hanya was expressionless, but her eyes were full of disdain. If it weren't for Yang Cheng's instructions, she would have already killed this woman because she was disrespectful to her master. Meng Yu realized that she couldn't convince Hanya. Her heart was burning with anxiety. She was thinking of a way to escape when she suddenly saw a dark blue dorsal fin in the distant sea. Chapter 1405. Sharks were known for their sensitivity to blood. Yang Cheng knew that there were a large number of great green sharks in this area of the sea. These sharks were fatal to ordinary people, but for Meng Yu, who had decent internal energy cultivation and had trained in martial arts, she could still resist for a while. Meng Yu's breathing was extremely rapid. Seeing a great green shark come in her side, she hurriedly grabbed the rope and climbed up a few steps. The shark was very interested in the ankle that was still bleeding. It jumped out of the sea and opened its bloody mouth at the white and tender calf. Meng Yu couldn't care less about the shock in her heart. She kicked the shark's nose, making a muffled sound. At least she didn't lose a section. Meng Yu's face was already green. Her hair was wet and stuck to her cheeks. She was in a sorry state and sobbed. She didn't know why she had to suffer such mental and physical torture. As the number of sharks increased, there were already 7 to 8 sharks jumping under Meng Yu, trying to bite her. Meng Yu didn't dare to let go of the rope. Continuously kicking and kicking these sharks made her physically and mentally exhausted. Seeing that the number of sharks increased, Meng Yu couldn't care too much. She frantically tried to climb up the rope to the boat. Hanya, who had been guarding there, wouldn't let her succeed. The leader of Yamada's sect was watching excitedly and couldn't wait for this woman to be eaten by the sharks. Without waiting for Meng Yu to reach the railing, Hanya had already kicked Meng Yu's chest. Meng Yu still had 2 broken ribs. She had been in extreme pain. Now that she was heavily injured, she fell into the sea in pain. A group of sharks saw their delicious food falling and pounced over. Meng Yu instinctively used her remaining internal energy and continuously punched and kicked the sharks in the sea. She killed 2 sharks with one slap, and the scarlet blood dyed the sea red. A few sharks saw that their companions were dead and immediately opened their mouths to devour the 2 dead sharks. This gave Meng Yu a chance to catch her breath. She once again grabbed the rope and hung herself in the air. "Not bad, but you seem to have used up a lot of energy," Hanya said coldly with an expressionless face. Meng Yu realized that this woman was also a complete demoness. She clearly wanted to see him exhausted by the shark, and then be eaten until not even his bones were left. As a child of the Meng family, she was not afraid of death, but she could not accept that her beautiful body was bitten by a group of beasts in the sea. Her internal organs were scattered, and she was eaten alive. When she thought of this, she felt disgusted. Coupled with hunger and cold, the stench of the seawater, and the pain from her broken chest, she had a nervous breakdown. Meng Yu cried hysterically, "Let me go up. I'll talk. I'll talk. Kowtow and apologize to my master. Can you do that, young Miss of Meng family?" Hanya was not willing to surrender to this woman. How could Meng Yu care so much? Being able to live was the best. She already understood that Yang Cheng simply did not see her as a human, let alone a young miss of the Meng family. I'm willing. Let me go up." Meng Yu was already weak. Fighting with the sharks continuously had exhausted the last of her strength. Hanya coldly snorted and pulled the rope upwards, throwing Meng Yu onto the deck and giving her another heavy jolt. Meng Yu's bones were about to fall apart. The dress that she was wearing, because of fighting with the sharks in the sea, was torn and tattered. Only the collar of her chest was left. From head to toe, her snow-white skin was covered with bright red scars. What was worse was that she was only wearing a black and red bra and a pair of sexy underwear of the same style. If one were to disregard her current sorry state and the bloodstains all over her body, her jade-like body would really be lying on the deck. It would really be a wonderful scenery. Feeling that she was temporarily safe, Meng Yu's tears trickled down. She did not want to enter the sea again. That group of sharks made her feel like she had died no less than 100 times. Every second felt like a century. After all, she was a pampered young miss. Even in the business world and in the gang, she was resourceful. But the test of life and death was not so easy. What? You've decided to kowtow to me and admit your wrongs. At this time, Yang Cheng had finished eating. He took a white towel and wiped his mouth. He leisurely walked to the deck. All of Meng Yu's muscles were sore and powerless. Her pair of charming eyes now stared at Yang Cheng blankly, as if she had already become numb. Yang Cheng glanced at this woman's exposed body with interest. Her figure was indeed good. She had the capital to be proud of. "Master is asking you a question." Hanya mercilessly kicked Meng Yu's thigh. Meng Yu screamed in pain and rolled a few times on the deck. She gritted her teeth, and tears flowed down. "Didn't your Meng family keep saying that you want me to kneel and kowtow? Today, I'll let you have a taste of it. I'll count to 3. If you don't do it, I'll continue to throw you to feed the sharks." Yang Cheng casually raised his hand and began to count. 1, 2, no. Meng Yu squeezed out the rest of her strength. Her face was pale. She turned around and knelt in front of Yang Cheng unwillingly. It was as if the woman's bones were broken. With great difficulty, Meng Yu bent down and heavily knocked her forehead on the deck. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was wrong." Meng Yu felt that her dignity was like a tile that was exposed to the wind and the sun. It was peeling off layer by layer and drifting away with the sea breeze. "Do you know where you went wrong?" Yang Cheng walked in front of the woman. With one foot in front of the place where the woman was kowtowing, he condescendingly asked, "Meng Yu sobbed, we shouldn't have lied to you. It seems that you still don't understand." Yang Cheng stretched out his hand and pointed at the group of sharks that still refused to disperse. He said, "Do you know what's the biggest difference between sharks and other fish?" Meng Yu raised her head. She didn't understand and shook her head. "They don't have swim bladders." Yang Cheng said, "Swim bladders?" Meng Yu was even more confused. She was in a daze and didn't know what Yang Cheng meant. Yang Cheng said firmly, "That's right. Sharks don't have swim bladders. From the moment they're born, if they don't want to sink into the sea, and if they want to stay alive, they have to constantly use their bodies to survive in the sea by moving their bodies nonstop. From the moment a shark is born, it has never stopped fighting for its life. Therefore, those who can survive are all experts in the sea. I'm like a shark. From the moment I became sensible, I understood that I could only rely on my own strength to fight, and kill. I never thought that a family or a force could surpass me. And you guys, you're just a bunch of idiots who rely on the glory of your ancestors to act like tyrants and look at the sky from the bottom of a well. You guys might occasionally be able to suppress me, but it's impossible for you to defeat me. Because I'm the king, Meng Yu's expression was bitter. Many complicated expressions flashed through her eyes. She was in a daze, as if she was infatuated. On the side, Henya looked at the man she followed emotionally. Her eyes were full of eager emotions, but she didn't dare to show too much. After a long silence, Yang Chung asked again, "Why do you suddenly want to marry me? To tell you the truth, I will let you live for the time being." The last line of defense in Meng Yu's heart had collapsed. Perhaps it was because she realized that she couldn't defeat the man in front of her, or it was a kind of surrender. It's because of the pressure from the number one chief. Number one? Yang Chung frowned. "What do you mean?" Meng Yu wiped the seawater and tears on her face. Her lips were a little dry and cracked. She said in a quiet voice, "I'm not very clear about the specifics, but our Meng family has eyes in the central government, so the most core decisions can be quickly obtained. Because of the conflict between you and our Meng family, the number one chief met with the Li family head. He already wanted to use your hand to suppress the development of our Meng family. Otherwise, that Jiang Xiaobai wouldn't be so bold to let you have conflict with us. The power behind the number one chief is not something our Meng family can contend with. So Grandpa and the others plan to let you marry me. In this way, the Yang family and you can form a front with us and also solve the problem of ancestral spirit treasure. The most important thing is that if you become a family with us, then the number one chief will no longer have the idea of dealing with our Meng family. The number one chief is the person who cares about the overall situation of the country the most. He will not have personal emotional factors. He will only consider the stability of the country and the safety of the people." Chapter 1406. Number one is so capable. What he wants to do can be found out by your Meng family. You seem to be more resourceful than him? Yang Chung doubted. Meng Yu was afraid that Yang Chung wouldn't believe her, but she couldn't say the specific details. She could only argue. There are no real secrets in officialdom. Every family that can survive for a long time has its own way of obtaining information. I'm not the head of the family, so I don't know how this came about, but I have no reason to lie to you about this kind of thing. Yang Chung already believed 70% or 80% of it. Thinking about it carefully, it seems that he was really used as a knife. Thinking of this, he had a little more understanding of the number one official. He looked very cheerful and kind on TV, but behind his back, he really knows how to kill people with a borrowed knife. In the middle of this, of course, the Li family added fuel to the fire. Although Li Dun has a good relationship with him, he is afraid that in the face of this kind of thing, he will still put national interests first. Yang Chung ate a loss, but he didn't say anything. He paced back and forth for a while, then said, "Now that you are in my hands, let your family release my father-in-law and mother-in-law, then I will let you go back." Meng Yu's eyes flashed with a trace of intention. She really didn't want to stay on the ship for a moment longer. "You give me the communication tool, I will tell my grandfather." Hanya on the side threw a mobile phone to her. This mobile phone was specially made by Jane. No country's technological level can detect it. Zhonghai, in a very large private villa bought by the Meng family. Many of the core members of the Meng family have already arrived at the villa, including some of the Meng family's branch family patriarchs. Meng Kwa, Meng Tian, Meng Wei, and Meng Qi, the four elders, were sitting high in the top position. They just listened silently, disdaining to discuss anything with these juniors. Below, Meng Kaiyuan and dozens of representatives of the branch family, as well as the main leaders of the Huanan gang, were discussing how to deal with this crisis. Yang Chung was able to break through the defense of the Huaxian Navy and attack the location of the Meng family with the Tomahawk missile. If it weren't for Meng Kwa and several other elders, the Meng family would have been a headless dragon. Yang Cheng's vicious and ruthless methods made the Meng family shudder in fear. However, what made the Meng family even more worried was that the dispute between the Meng family and Yang Chung was not over. The number one chief above would not really give up. In recent years, the Meng family had been constantly expanding their connections in secret. They had joined hands with the Ning family. Whether it was in the business world or in the officialdom, they had gradually infiltrated many corners. The reason why the number one chief did not care before was because once he took action, The roots of the old tree would be entrenched and the country's vitality would be greatly damaged. But this time it was different. With Yang Cheng, this unstable factor as a pawn, the number one chief is likely to take advantage of the situation. In any case, suppressing Yang Cheng will take a lot of effort, and suppressing the Meng family will also take a lot of effort. With the intention of eliminating one of the two, he will eliminate the one who benefits the most. Yang Cheng is now missing. None of us here are stable. We can't guarantee when he will rush out again, said a branch family patriarch. I don't think he dares to come back. With several elders here, he is no match for them. This time, he has angered the higher-ups. As long as he returns to the country, the number one chief will catch him. Otherwise, wouldn't I Huaxia lose face? Whitehorse Hall's hall master Bai shook his head and said, not necessarily. Even if the number one chief wants to catch Yang Cheng, he will definitely wait for him to fight with our South China gang. At that time, even if Yang Cheng is arrested, our years of painstaking effort will be in vain. In my opinion, go and catch all the people around Yang Cheng. Doesn't he have a daughter in Zhonghai? Let's see if he dares to do anything to us after we catch him. Are you stupid? Zhang Xian, who had just become the hall master of the Golden Hall, scolded. Originally, the Yang family did not make a move this time because we agreed that Yang Cheng's personal grudges would not be affected by the Yang family. But if we catch Yang Cheng's daughter, won't it implicate the bloodline of the Yang family? At that time, the soldiers of the Jiangnan military region will directly surround us. Even if we don't hurt our muscles and bones, we will lose a layer of skin. That's right, it's better not to touch the people around Yang Cheng. The last thing that the number one chief wants to see is a disturbance. The reason why the number one chief caught Lu Qingshan and his wife is because Lu Qingshan is not a good person, so the higher-ups did not care. As for Yang Chen's women, a few of them were reputable figures. It was said that two of the more average ones had left the country this morning. None of us know what other means Yang Cheng has planted in the country. If we provoke him and he assassinates our relatives, wouldn't that be a loss? Hearing this, everyone felt that it was inappropriate. After all, the Meng family had a lot of relatives, and they were all in the open, so it was easy for Yang Cheng to catch them. Meng Kaiyuan listened to them and felt a headache. Now, he was depressed because he couldn't even find Yang Cheng. That brat's fleet came and went without a trace, so there was no radar at all. In the vast sea, who knew where they were? Leader, there's a phone call. It's the eldest miss. A guard came forward with Meng Kaiyuan's mobile phone. What? You where? All the Meng family members were excited. Could it be that Meng Yu had escaped? Quickly track the phone signal. Bai He reacted immediately and ordered the Huanan gang technician who had been connected to the network not far away. Meng Kaiyuan's hands trembled slightly as he took the phone and asked gently, Is this Yuer? It's grandfather. Meng Yu heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that her grandfather was fine. She immediately said, Grandfather, I'm currently on Yang Cheng's yacht. He said that as long as we release Lu Qingshan and his wife, he will let me go back. Oh, Meng Kaiyuan frowned. Wait a moment. I'm in a meeting with your uncles, so I can't make the decision alone. I'll discuss it with them. Meng Yu's heart turned cold when she heard this, but she was also filled with bitterness and helplessness. When the children of ordinary families were kidnapped, when the elders heard that they could exchange hostages to save them, why would there be a need for discussion? However, the children of the Meng family were different. They had to consider the interests of the family before they could choose their life and death. However, when she thought about how her grandfather doted on her the most, Meng Yu firmly believed that her grandfather would definitely agree to exchange her. After Meng Kaiyuan explained Meng Yu's situation, everyone present fell silent. Right now, they were not very optimistic about this deal. How could Yang Cheng be let go so easily? After a long while, the hall elder Meng Qi, who had been sitting on top of the hall, said that Yang Cheng brat is very cunning. Yesterday, he clearly said that he would go to the meeting alone, but he set up missiles and explosives there, waiting for us to jump into the fire pit. In fact, these words were also the thoughts of many of the Huanan gang members, but they did not think about it. Who was the one who invited Yang Cheng up and set up a banquet at Hongmen? Meng Kaiyuan saw that everyone understood and was silent in his heart. Although he felt very uncomfortable, he could not go against everyone's wishes, not to mention that the elders were against it. Dad, Yuera's contribution to the Huanan gang is not small at all. Meng Kai could not hold it in any longer. As his biological father, he was most concerned about his daughter. Humph. Meng Kai, you have to take the overall situation into consideration. Right now, the only cards in our hands that can control Yangcheng are Lu Qingshan and his wife. If we let them go, Yangcheng will crazily take revenge in the dark, but we won't be able to find him. What should we do? After Meng Kai's face turned green and red, he revealed a deathly pale expression and was speechless. Meng Kaiyuan sighed deeply and said to Meng Yu, who had been waiting bitterly on the phone, I'm sorry, it's not grandfather. I know, grandfather. There's no need to say any more. Meng Yu's voice trembled slightly, but she forced a smile. I'm fine now. Don't worry about me. I believe that grandfather can save me. The phone was hung up immediately, and there seemed to be the sound of Yang Cheng cursing on the side. Meng Kaiyuan's heart ached. After all, he had watched his granddaughter grow up. How could he not understand Meng Yu's sorrow? Idiot! Have you found the location of the signal? Meng Kaiyuan roared at the group of technicians. A man in charge of the technical team stood up and said with cold sweat, Sect leader, the other party's technology is too advanced. We can't accurately lock onto it. We can only roughly know that it's in the eastern high seas. High seas? The high seas are so big. A big Pacific Ocean. Aren't you talking nonsense? Meng Kai also stood up and shouted angrily. Suddenly, Meng Kwa, who had been silent the entire time, suddenly stood up. His eyes swept across the crowd like torches and said, knowing that its east is enough. Meng Tian, Meng Wei, the two of you follow me to the sea. Find that evil creature and take his dog life. Chapter 1407. When Meng Tian and Meng Wei heard this, they turned pale with fright. Elder Meng Kwa, if we leave the territorial waters of Huaxia, it will be a violation of the Treaty of Gods. Humph! Isn't that kid also called Hell King? What ability does he have? Gods? That's just a group of people angling for fame. I don't think it's worth it. If there's really a strong expert, can't the three of us even run back to Huaxia? Although Meng Tian and Meng Wei were nervous, they couldn't lose face in front of these descendants of the Meng family, so they nodded and agreed. They hadn't experienced the war between the gods and the ancient cultivators of Huaxia, so they didn't know much about the gods and didn't think too much about it. In the blink of an eye, the three crossing tribulation stage elders flew out and disappeared into the eastern sky. The leaders of the Huanan gang were stunned. They were really godlike characters. Unfortunately, except for those who were recognized as the most talented children in the family and could receive special training, most of the descendants of the Meng family couldn't reach their level. If it weren't for the crisis of the family, these elders wouldn't have appeared. On the deck of the Erebos, Yang Cheng's ears were sensitive, so he heard what Meng Kaiyuan said on the phone. This old guy didn't even want his own granddaughter and insisted on holding onto Lu Qingshan and his wife. He was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 5 orifices. He was waiting to give Lu Mingyu an explanation. I say, you woman, are you really your father's daughter? Aren't you known as the leader of the younger generation of the Meng family? Why the F*CK? Don't you want to go back? Yang Cheng pointed at Meng Yu and couldn't help but curse. Meng Yu had kept her head down since the phone call. Her heart seemed to be sealed with a layer of ice and then mercilessly shattered, causing hot blood to gush out. She didn't know what she was feeling at the moment. She was like a kitten that was originally loved by its owner and held in his arms every day. But one day, because its owner was too busy with work, he simply abandoned the kitten in a dark and gloomy alley. She realized that the warmth and affection she had felt in the past seemed to be illusory, like a soap bubble that would dissipate into the air with a little poke. Hearing Yang Cheng's angry scolding, Meng Yu finally couldn't help but raise her head. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She stretched out her hand and opened her mouth to shout. She tried to grab Yang Cheng's finger that was pointing at her and crazily bit it. Yang Chung was stunned. Why was this woman suddenly baring her fangs and brandishing her claws like she wanted to bite him? Are you crazy? How could Yang Chung let her grab him? He directly pushed her forehead, causing Meng Yu to tumble. Falling onto the ice-cold deck, Meng Yu cried even more bitterly. It seemed like there was nothing left in this world that she was reluctant to part with. She hated herself. Why was she born in such a family? Why did she have to fall into the hands of such a violent man? Hanya looked at her with disdain and lightly spat out a Japanese word, cowardly woman. Although Meng Yu didn't understand Japanese, she knew that Hanya looked down on her. However, at this moment, she felt that there was nothing to care about. She had lost her self-esteem, her family, and her freedom. A layer of death appeared in Meng Yu's eyes, and her heart was disheartened. Yang Chung could naturally tell that this woman was basically a cripple, but he didn't have the heart to be protective of the fairer sex. For a woman he didn't like, no matter how beautiful she was, how could he care so much? Yang Chung took the phone and dialed a number. "Make Dawn, have you done what I asked you to do?" Yang Chung asked. The head of the Secret Service was very proud. "Your Majesty Pluto, although I'm not young anymore, I haven't reached the point where I can't do anything. I've already done it." "Very good. Immediately send the things you found to that family. You know what to do." He understood. "That, Your Excellency, is my grandson, Brewster, all right?" Make Dawn carefully probed. Yang Chung smiled slightly. "Not bad. Brewster is quite reliable. If that's the case, then I'm relieved. If there's anything wrong, Your Majesty Pluto, feel free to beat him up." Maketon's heart calmed down a lot. After all, he was old. If his grandson could always be the commander-in-chief of the Ghost Fleet, then he wouldn't have to worry about anything. He was very clear about the power of this fleet. It was meticulously built by Jane, and although it seemed to be no different from the weapons of other countries' navies, the internal equipment was completely ahead of its time. Yang Chung could roughly guess Maketon's thoughts. In fact, although the Ghost Fleet was the strongest naval force under him, it was also in the past. Now, he was even more clear that recovering his cultivation and seeking a higher cultivation realm was the most powerful force. These worldly forces were not so important to him. Makedon had worked for him for many years, so it wasn't impossible for his grandson to continue commanding this fleet. Looking at Meng Yu, who was lying motionless on the deck with lifeless eyes, Yang Chung frowned and said to Hanya, "Bring her in, just don't let her die. Leaving her on the deck to look like a corpse will affect your mood." Hanya actually felt that it would be better to throw her down to feed the sharks, but she still obeyed and carried Meng Yu into the cabin. Yang Chung looked at the time and estimated that it wouldn't be long before the people from the Meng family called. Thus, he found a recliner on the deck, called for a cocktail, and began to sunbathe. However, just as Yang Chung took a sip of the fragrant wine, a huge pressure came from the sky, and 3 black figures whistled over. Yang Cheng's heart trembled. He stood up and looked at the 3 old men, thinking that he had misjudged them. The 3 elders, Meng Kuo, Meng Tian, and Meng Wei, had actually found him. "Oomph, you didn't run too far. Evil creature, do you really think that I won't be able to find you if you escape from Huaxia?" Meng Kuo sneered with a hint of playfulness. Facing the 3 people who were staring at him covetously, Yang Cheng's palms couldn't help but sweat. Were they really going to force him to use his cultivation? "Don't you know that you have violated the alliance of gods?" Yang Chung frowned. "What is the gods? You and your accomplices are also worthy of being called gods?" Meng Kuo laughed wildly. "You are simply overestimating yourself. You're just a little bastard who can only be suppressed by this old man's saber and not be able to move. Today, I will let your blood splash 5 steps away and your head be separated from your body." After saying that, a yellow light flashed in Meng Kuo's hand, and the long saber appeared once again. "Elder Meng Kuo, Meng Yu is still in his hands," Meng Tian reminded him. "Humph, she's just a female junior. She's not some amazing talent that can be cultivated. If she dies, then so be it. If I split this ship of hers, and she's still alive, then that's her fortune," Meng Kuo said indifferently. Although Meng Tian and Meng Wei felt that Meng Kuo was too cold-blooded, They also knew that Meng Kuo was really angry with Yang Cheng. Last night, he had lost a lot of face. As for Meng Yu, in the secular world, she had a bright future in cultivation. However, in their opinion, she had no hope of entering the soul formation stage, so her death didn't have much of an impact. At this time, Hanya flew to the deck like a shadow. Looking at the three black-robed elders in midair, she asked sternly, "Your Majesty Pluto, do you want to use the tracking missile to kill them?" Yang Cheng shook his head. "It's useless. Make everyone stay in the cabin and don't come out." Yang Cheng knew that without a group of Meng clansmen who needed protection, these three crossing calamity stage cultivators could easily avoid the missile, and even if it really exploded, it wouldn't hurt them. Unseal. Yang Cheng still didn't dare to use his cultivation. He could only use his spiritual force and the law of space to soar into the sky. "Oh, you still want to resist? I will let you die with understanding." Meng Kuo signaled Meng Tian and Meng Wei to move aside. He pointed his saber at Yang Cheng, and a huge amount of water essence stage true essence began to quickly condense. Although they were above the sea, the earth attribute spiritual qi could still be obtained. With the gathering of the earth yellow spiritual qi, the long saber began to make a deep sound, like a beast that wanted to trample on the enemy. Yang Cheng didn't immediately decide to attack. Instead, he urged two parallel spaces to cut the space in the sea, pushing his yacht and the warships on both sides several nautical miles away. Above the blue sea, this scene was like a scene from a movie. The yacht that was under Yang Cheng's body just now had already appeared several nautical miles away in the blink of an eye, and the seawater collided with each other irregularly, creating turbulence. In this way, even if the battle started, the true essence stage wouldn't be able to easily destroy the warship. Ridiculous. When you die, your subordinates won't be able to escape. In Meng Kuo's view, Yang Cheng's actions were superfluous. "Eat my saber." The long saber slashed down majestically. The majestic and heavy true essence stage had already cut a depression of hundreds of meters in the seawater under Yang Cheng's body. Yang Cheng mobilized dozens of parallel spaces to form an arc shield, trying to block it, but it was still quickly cut into pieces. The true essence of a water essence stage cultivator was too strong. Such a small amount of parallel space couldn't stop it at all. The penetrative power was so strong that it directly shattered. Yang Cheng dodged the saber, and with his speed, he instantly moved towards Meng Kuo's body. Even if there was no true essence stage, Yang Cheng believed that their bodies were definitely not as tough as his. If he could penetrate their bodies, he could suppress them. In your dreams, a true essence shield instantly opened up, and at the same time, it also emitted a layer of dense earth yellow mist-like true essence, radiating from Meng Kuo's body. Yang Cheng felt his own space law stagnate, as if he had fallen into sand, and every movement was extremely strenuous. Chapter 1408. With such an insignificant skill like the spatial laws and brute force, do you really think you can compete with this old man's exquisite Huaxia spell? This heavy sand technique is derived from an ancient Dao technique, and it just so happens to counter your spatial transfer. Do you feel that your entire body has been sucked in by true essence and you can't move? Meng Kuo laughed complacently, looking at Yang Cheng struggling in the air, feeling extremely pleased with himself. Yang Cheng was annoyed in his heart. If he had his original cultivation, once he used the power of the heavens and earth, his opponent was only at the aqua water stage. This little bit of earth spirit adhesion could be broken in an instant, but his own spatial laws were too weak, and he was unable to cut off this true essence. Meng Kuo grinned, and the blade in his hand fell. This time, the 1,000-kilogram blade chopped straight towards Yang Cheng's body. There was no way to avoid it. Yang Cheng relied on his brute force to tilt his body, but the blade still cut into his shoulder. Clang! When the blade cut into Yang Cheng's shoulder, it was as if it had cut into tough metal. The true essence violently flowed, and the earthen yellow true essence seemed to shoot out in all directions. Yang Cheng's body seemed to have been struck by lightning, falling straight into the sea like a human-shaped cannonball. Boom! The sea splashed high into the air, and Yang Chung felt an intense pain in his shoulder. His body uncontrollably fell hundreds of meters into the sea before slowly stopping. At such a depth, if an ordinary person did not rely on special equipment, they would not be able to feel this kind of pressure. However, Yang Chung only felt that the muscles and tendons in his shoulder were rapidly recovering. The spatial laws could be used once again, and after Yang Chung continuously used spatial transposition, he rushed out of the sea. When Meng Kuo and the other two saw this scene, they were somewhat startled. Yang Cheng's body had actually recovered. Just now, he had clearly been badly mutilated by the 1,000-kilogram blade, but in the blink of an eye, only his clothes were torn and his vigorous body was exposed to the air. There were no signs of injury at all. You can take it, but do you think this old man can't chop you to death? Just right. Let this old man chop to his heart's content. I don't believe that you can still recover after I chop off your head. Meng Kuo brandished imminent and once again rushed towards Yang Chung. His whole body was constantly displaying the sand-sinking technique. It was as if a sandstorm tornado was moving quickly in the air. Once Yang Chung was shrouded in it, he would be unable to move. Yang Chung tried to use the space laws to dodge, but because the scattered True Yuan had completely disrupted the surrounding parallel space, Yang Chung was completely unable to move freely. He dodged continuously, but all he got in return was the Earth's spiritual true origin sticking to his body, which was then controlled by Meng Kuo. Fortunately, the Qian Jun in Meng Kuo's hand was only a middle-grade magic treasure. Moreover, it was not mainly sharp, but it relied on stability and heaviness. If that was a high-grade magic treasure, and it was extremely sharp, then Yang Chung would not be able to withstand a few hits. Amidst the earthen yellow quintessential essence, Yang Cheng's chest, back, legs, and even the dangerous area near his neck were all attacked by imminent. The blade that was chopping down brought along a line of floating blood on Yang Cheng's body. In midair, Yang Chung was like a fish on the chopping block, constantly rolling around. A chop, chop, chop. Meng Kuo was too lazy to use any special techniques to enhance the power of the blade. Yang Cheng's spatial laws had been completely shattered by him. Moreover, he was also controlled by his technique, so he had no ability to resist. He was just annoyed that Yang Chung always used small movements, not letting him chop the most fatal spots. But every time Yang Chung was cut, no matter how deep, he could quickly recover. This made him extremely annoyed, but he could also sense that as Yang Cheng's blood flowed out, Yang Cheng's life force was also gradually weakening. As long as he continued to chop more than 100 times, Yang Chung would eventually die from excessive blood loss. As long as he did not have cultivation and did not absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, then Yang Chung would just be a strong human body. Meng Tian and Meng Wei, who were at the side, were a little dumbfounded when they saw Meng Kuo slashing so violently and crazily. Yet Yang Chung was still able to hold on. They could not help but admire the strength of Yang Cheng's life force. But eventually, he would not be able to hold on any longer. Yang Chung had long forgotten what pain was. He kept dodging the attacks, but was also being attacked. No matter how much blood he lost, he still tried to get close to Meng Kuo. Gritting his teeth, Yang Chung did not make a sound. As long as he could still resist, he would not choose to use his cultivation, because that would mean that he would lose to Han Dun. There was a possibility that he would never be able to change back to himself. In the distance, be it Hanya on the yacht or the commanders on the 3 ships, they were all using their naked eyes or binoculars to watch the scene in midair. Hanya saw that Yang Chung was being continuously slashed by the black-robed old man with blood flowing out. She was so angry that her eyes turned red. She wanted to go up and help, but she did not know how to fly in midair. She was clear that her strength was inferior to an ant at this moment, but she could not sit back and watch. Captain Fanny, why didn't you launch the missiles? His Majesty Pluto will die if he continues to be attacked like this. Hanya shouted agitatedly. Old Fanny, who was at the side, frowned and said in a deep voice, Lady Hanya, His Majesty Pluto's purpose of sending us far away is to let us avoid him. Our attacks will only make things difficult for him. But we have to believe in His Majesty Pluto's choice," Old Fanny said in a loud voice. In midair, Meng Quan noticed that Yang Cheng was actually trying to get close to him to attack, and he was so angry that he trembled. "Evil creature, let's see how long you can hold on for," Meng Quan roared. 1,000-kilogram wild thunder slash. The 1,000-kilogram long saber in his hand brought along a thunderous electric current. Although the blazing high-temperature electric current was not heavenly thunder and was just the power of ordinary thunder and lightning, because of its extremely high temperature and destructive power, its power was extraordinary. The long saber entwined with electric current once again slashed at Yang Cheng's chest. While leaving a half-foot-long wound, it also charred Yang Cheng's muscles and skin. Yang Cheng finally could not bear it anymore and let out a mournful scream. His body was once again heavily struck into the sea, rolling up a huge wave. "Elder, this brat is almost at his limit. Why don't the three of us attack him together and dismember his corpse into 1,000 pieces? Elder, you have been fighting for so long. Let us two brothers vent our anger." Meng Tian stepped forward and said with a sneer. Meng Qua's face was gloomy. He looked at Meng Tian and Meng Wei, nodded, and said, "All right, last night you guys were also badly battered by him. Next, I'll let you guys stab him a few times." Meng Tian and Meng Wei's faces were filled with joy. The two of them summoned their respective flying swords. Both of them were low-grade magic treasures, but it was enough to deal with the current Yang Cheng. "Once this brat is dead, we'll search his body for our Meng clan's spiritual treasure. Then, we'll kill all of his subordinates. Our mission to leave the mountain this time is almost over," Meng Qu said with satisfaction. While they were talking, Yang Cheng, who was in the sea, had already recovered from his injuries and once again floated up into the air. It was impossible to escape at this moment. Firstly, it was very difficult. Secondly, he could not abandon his subordinates and old friends. However, to defeat these three crossing tribulation stage cultivators, Yang Cheng felt that it was impossible without using his cultivation. Did he really have to risk his life and try to use his cultivation? His body was getting weaker and weaker. If it wasn't for his abnormal body, an ordinary crossing tribulation stage cultivator would have died dozens of times already. However, he was afraid that if he had to endure dozens of slashes, he would start to lose consciousness. Yang Cheng was a little annoyed. He was too careless. He should have let the ship go deeper into the Pacific Ocean. This place was too close to Huaxia. The nearest god, Poseidon, lived in Hawaii. Poseidon might have already noticed the battle here. However, he was worried about Huaxia's cultivators and felt that nothing would happen to him, so he did not rush over. Yang Cheng had indeed guessed most of it correctly. The use of the law of space would naturally alarm the other gods. However, all the gods were clear about Yang Cheng's abilities. They would not know that Yang Cheng's cultivation could not be used. Naturally, they thought that if there was a battle that Yang Cheng could not handle, then it would be useless for them to go. Moreover, it was near Huaxia, so there was no need to start a fight. Just as Yang Cheng was smiling bitterly and wondering if he should really use his cultivation, the two brothers, Meng Tian and Meng Wei, had already turned their flying swords into two long rainbows and stabbed toward Yang Cheng from the left and right. At this moment, Yang Cheng could not increase his speed at all. Under the envelopment of the true core strength of the three brothers, the movement of the law of space was extremely slow. Just as two more bloody wounds were about to appear on his body, the two flying swords suddenly twisted and turned around dozens of meters away from Yang Cheng. As if they had hit a reflective wall, the two flying swords mercilessly stabbed toward their two masters, Meng Tian and Meng Wei. Chapter 1409. This shocking change made Meng Tian and Meng Wei think that they were blind, but they reacted quickly. They controlled the flying sword to circle around them in an arc so that they wouldn't be hurt. Yang Cheng sensed the changes in the space around him. After a moment of surprise, he suddenly realized what was going on. Mirror dimension? This was an extremely profound use of the law of space. It could reflect the enemy's attack as if it was a mirror. In fact, it was done through exquisite space cutting and stitching. And now, in this world, there was probably no other person who could use this law of space to appear here. Athena? Yang Cheng's divine sense weakened. At this moment, he realized that a woman in a black dress had appeared in the sky. A pair of bare snow feet were extremely eye-catching under the sunlight. As her black silk dress danced in the wind, one could vaguely see her fair and long legs. On the woman's proud snow neck, that absolutely beautiful face that was shrouded in mist was still the same as before. It was not very clear, but it was exceptionally moving. Athena's eyes were filled with extreme natural arrogance. She looked at Meng Kuo and the other two with an extremely contemptuous gaze that could drive them crazy. Meng Kuo and the other two looked as if they were facing a great enemy. This woman gave them an incredibly strong sense of oppression, and they didn't even notice that someone was coming. Yang Cheng heaved a sigh of relief. Although he felt depressed and felt that he had to rely on this goddess to survive, he couldn't care less. It wasn't the first time that Athena had made a move. He couldn't be swallowed by the chaos just because of Meng Kuo and the others. It wasn't worth it. But why didn't the other gods rush over? Instead, it was this mysterious woman who came. Could it be that she knew his current situation because of the prophecy's spell? Yang Chen could only guess so. Who are you? Meng Kuo and the other two elders stood together and looked at Athena from afar. They couldn't understand how Athena managed to turn the flying sword back in an instant. Didn't your elders teach you the consequences of violating the covenant of gods? Athena said indifferently. Her simple words were filled with murderous intent. Meng Kuo and the others felt a chill down their spines. They didn't know why they were so weak. Are you a sovereign as well? Meng Kuo probed. Athena was too lazy to reply. She said coldly, "You are not worthy for me to kill you. You have violated the covenant. Kill yourselves." Hearing this, no matter how careful Meng Kuo and the other two were, they began to burn with anger. Haha, are you kidding me? You're just a woman who's in cahoots with this evil creature. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Do you know where we come from? If you really dare to fight us, then bring it on. Meng Kuo's 1,000-caddy-long saber once again condensed into a 10-feet-long light blade, while Meng Tian and Meng Wei both pushed their flying swords to the extreme. The flying swords began to look blurry, and the light they emitted was the result of a large amount of true inner force gathering. Athena suddenly ignored the three of them and looked down at Yang Chen. Hades, you're too stupid. Even if you've inherited old Hades' divinity, your understanding of the laws of space is still too shallow. The corner of Yang Cheng's mouth twitched. He had always been quite confident in his cultivation, but being called stupid by Athena made him feel a little sullen. Huaxia's cultivation technique is different from the comprehension of the laws of space. Even now, you still don't understand what space is. Athena seemed to be able to see through everything that Yang Cheng was thinking. Yang Cheng smiled embarrassedly and said to Meng Kuo and the other two, I say, big sister, even if you want to give me some pointers, there's no need to say it now. They're about to attack you. Athena snorted in disdain them. They're already dead. These words were as arrogant as they could be. Meng Kuo and the other two were about to attack, but they were actually sentenced to death? This old man has never liked to deal with women, but you, this woman, are really ugly. Watch my 1,000-caddy blade. As Meng Kuo roared, the long blade in his hand danced like a violent waterfall. Because of the large amount of true essence gathered, it was more ferocious than any of the slashes that had been aimed at Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng didn't dare to take this slash head-on. Even if he didn't die, he would at least lose half his life. However, Athena didn't move at all. She stood in midair as if nothing had happened. Suddenly, Meng Kuo's saber light disappeared for some reason when it was 10 meters in front of Athena. It was as if it had broken into another space. The saber light did not appear in the space where Athena should have appeared, but was instead absorbed by another space. After that, Meng Kuo, Meng Tian, and Meng Wei felt a boundless suction force beneath them, and it started to drag them down. Yang Cheng, who was standing far away, could see clearly and feel that the space where Meng Kuo and the other two were standing was constantly collapsing. Obviously, it was only the space that was constantly collapsing, but the three of them couldn't resist falling at the same time. Yang Cheng had never seen such a space law. It was like a whirlpool on the sea, sucking people down. But in fact, the whirlpool was constructed by countless parallel spaces. Meng Kuo and the other two were naturally unwilling to give up. Realizing that the situation was not good, they frantically bombarded the surrounding parallel spaces with their true essence. The true essence of three crossing calamity stage experts exploded at the same time. But no matter how they destroyed the surrounding parallel spaces, the speed of their falling did not slow down at all. When they reached the bottom of the seawater began to howl like a tornado. After another 10 seconds, the entire tornado formed by the seawater suddenly stopped, and the seawater suddenly fell down. The whole sea returned to calmness, as if nothing had happened. However, Yang Cheng discovered that the three crossing calamity stage elders of the Meng family had actually disappeared. Ignorant cultivators, they've already been devoured by the parallel space. With their cultivation, they can't withstand the pressure of such a thick space. They'll definitely be crushed to death, Athena said casually. Yang Cheng could imagine how terrified Meng Kuo and the other two were when they fell from the sky. The ability to kill three tribulation passing stage cultivators with just one move of the space law was too terrifying. Don't be surprised. Athena looked back at Yang Cheng and said, their strength is still too low compared to the truly powerful cultivator Huaxia. This kind of technique is useful against them, but as long as the true essence is strong enough, it won't be so easy to do. Yang Cheng smiled bitterly and said, You didn't use any strength at all. Even if they were several times stronger, I'm afraid they still wouldn't be your opponent. This is the power that you have never properly comprehended the law of space, Athena said proudly. Hades, your situation is within my expectations. Do you still think that your path is right? Just like how you have always insisted on walking your own path, I also have my own persistence. I will not regret it, Yang Cheng said firmly. Athena didn't intend to persuade him. After hearing what Yang Cheng said, she coldly looked at him and was about to leave. However, Yang Cheng immediately stopped her and couldn't help but ask, I'm very curious. Why did your law of space have such a strong attraction? What kind of power dragged them down? Athena seemed to sigh faintly. As I said before, you don't understand what space is at all. Do you think that in this universe, there is really such a thing as power? Yang Cheng stared blankly, completely confused. What kind of nonsense is this woman talking? However, Athena didn't have any intention to say more. In the blink of an eye, she had already disappeared. Yang Cheng thought for a long time, but he still couldn't understand. What is power? Isn't this something that physicists should consider? Yang Cheng thought that he should ask Jane this question. Perhaps women have more ideas than him. No matter what, he finally escaped a disaster. The Meng family lost 3 crossing tribulation stage elders. In a short period of time, perhaps they won't send any experts out of Huaxia to find trouble with him. Yang Cheng was also relieved. Back on the ship, Hanya, Old Fanny, and the others were happy to have a new lease of life. This made Yang Cheng a little embarrassed. To put it bluntly, they all survived because of Athena. Your Majesty Pluto, Huaxia called to look for you. Cheryl came out of the cabin at this time, holding a mobile phone with Yang Cheng's private number. There were very few people who knew the number. After Yang Cheng got the news from Mengyu, he roughly guessed who called. He took the phone and listened. Sure enough. Chapter 14:10. Minister Li, you really made it hard for me this time. Yang Cheng's tone was filled with dissatisfaction. The other party was Li Mozhen. If it wasn't for Li Dun's face, he would have cursed out loud. Li Mozhen smiled and said, You don't seem surprised that I called. It was the old man who told you how to get through to this number, wasn't it? At this point, it's time to be frank. My old man definitely wants to avoid arousing suspicion. I don't think the number 1 chief will lower himself to such an extent. I guess you'll be the one to talk to me, Yang Chen said. Since you said so, it seems like you know a lot of things. I will not deny it. Yes, this time, we indeed have the suspicion of using you. But you should also admit that if you didn't insist on fighting with the Meng family, we wouldn't have fallen into this situation. Limousin calmly said. Yang Cheng smiled lightly. You think I'm in a bad situation now, isn't it? The power behind the Meng family is not something you can imagine. They have already sent 3 elders. That is just the tip of the iceberg. With just you, do you think you can go back to Huaxia? Limousin said with a bit of ridicule. Yang Cheng laughed in his heart. You still want to use the Meng family to pressure me? He deliberately said in a regretful tone. I just wanted to ask someone to help me pass a message to the Meng family. The 3 elders of the Meng family, Meng Qua, Meng Tian, and Meng Wei, have disappeared forever. What did you say? Limousin slightly lost his composure. After a moment of silence, he said in disbelief, You killed them? This time it's not my turn. Yang Cheng pretended to say, They came to the high seas to kill me. In the end, they violated the treaty of gods. It just so happened that Athena came back. You don't know that Athena is a violent woman. She directly crushed those 3 old guys into the space. Not even their bones were left. TSK, if I had that method, the Meng family would have been destroyed by me. When Limousin heard this, he couldn't help but have a headache. This matter has become big. The Meng family will not let it go. Yang Cheng, I advise you, if you still want to set foot on Huaxia's land, don't expand this matter. Try to push the responsibility to the gods. The Meng clan is not something you can shake. Nonsense. Yang Cheng immediately refuted. What do you mean push the blame to the gods? Since I've accepted the divinity of the previous Hades, I can't ignore the affairs of the gods. Not to mention that Athena saved me this time. Why are you so stupid? I'm just saying it verbally. It's not like I'm going to make you fall out with the gods. You used to be quite slippery. Why are you? All right, I'm not a modest gentleman, but I still need to be loyal. Yang Cheng felt that Christine, Stern, and his sister were much friendlier than Huaxia and the other old men. Limousin sighed and didn't seem to know what to say. Actually, I've always wanted to know, what is the power behind the Meng clan? Yang Cheng had long asked. Limousin didn't answer directly, but mysteriously said, I'm afraid no one knows much about this matter except the number 1 chief. I only know some general things. But I can tell you one thing. That is, the power behind the Meng clan is enough to rival the whole of Hongmeng. Yang Cheng suspected that he had misheard, but when he came back to his senses, it seemed that only this explanation was reasonable. Otherwise, why didn't Hongmeng send anyone to stop this turmoil? There is only one reason. Hongmeng had encountered a cultivator organization that they couldn't intervene rashly. However, it was not difficult to understand why Hongmeng could control all the rogue cultivators. Were there no other rogue cultivators who were dissatisfied with Hongmeng and wanted to set up their own sect? Just like Hongmeng, most of the cultivators didn't have much interest in the secular world. Even if there was an organization, they wouldn't easily show up in public. And the Meng clan was estimated to be the bridgehead of that organization, just like the Tang clan in the past, which was responsible for some things in the secular world. Limousin heard that Yang Cheng didn't speak and thought that Yang Cheng was afraid. He smiled and said, Don't panic, since I called you. Naturally, I have the intention to help you. Help me? Yang Cheng smiled evilly and said, I'm afraid there are conditions. That's natural. There is no free lunch in the world. Limousin slowly said, The number 1 chief said that if you are willing to contribute to the country and return the Meng clan's spirit treasure, he can order the Meng clan to release Lu Qingshan and his wife. As for the news of the death of the 3 elders, we can find a way to help you settle it. You have to believe that the number 1 has that ability. Yang Cheng raised his eyebrows and said, In the past, Lin Jigua asked me to help him train a berserk dragon army. Could it be that he wants me to help him train another army this time? There's no need for you to train any army, Limousin said. We just want to know, how did your fleet silently enter the territorial waters of Huaxia, and after sneak attacking the Hope Hotel, disappear without a trace and escape? Yang Cheng's face was solemn, and he said without hesitation, Impossible. The technological facilities that my fleet is equipped with are enough to subvert the entire world. If it is given to Huaxia, the national defense of other countries will be useless. Although I have no intention of helping other countries, I can't change the fate of all mankind because of me. This is a violation of the Treaty of Gods. The main gods can't take the initiative to participate in human wars. You blockhead, even if you give that technology to our Huaxia, we won't invade others. Li Mo's hen said gloomily. Bullying the weak is human nature. Perhaps you won't, but can you guarantee that the other people in power won't? If it wasn't for the fact that Huaxia's cultivators were restrained by the gods abroad, they probably wouldn't have the so-called seclusion and would have long since conquered the entire world. Yang Chung sneered. Li Mo's hen felt a headache coming on and said in exasperation, "All right, since you say so, I'll see what kind of ability you have to refuse our olive branch. Let's wait and see." Yang Chung smiled confidently. After hanging up the phone, Yang Chung sighed. Actually, he didn't have a concrete grasp of the direction of the situation, but it was absolutely impossible for him to hand over the technology of the Ghost Fleet. Hanya, who was at the side, said in confusion, "Your Majesty Pluto, Huaxia is your motherland. Why can't you give the technology to Huaxia?" Actually, even if Huaxia has the latest technology, he might not be able to threaten the other international powers. After all, the United States and the European Union also have their own hidden military forces. Yang Chung smiled bitterly and said, "Do you know why my fleet is called Ghost?" Hanya shook her head. She thought it was just to match the name of Pluto, but it seemed that there was another reason. Yang Chung recalled, "When I asked Sauron to help me build this fleet, in order to let this fleet avoid the eyes of the world's major navies, I specifically asked Jane to make an unprecedented stealth system for my fleet. This not only includes missile crews, anti-missile, and a series of functions like the Aegis system of the United States, but the most important point is that it can avoid all the current detection methods in the world. This system took Jane nearly half a year to make. For Jane, it was a very difficult invention. In the end, the name used was Kanai." Hanya frowned and thought for a while, and said, "This is the name of the artifact of Hades, the invisible helmet?" "Yes, it's the invisible helmet, Kanai. This artifact has been missing for tens of thousands of years. Jane named this stealth system Kanai, which also means to return it to its rightful owner. And my fleet, because of the existence of Kanai, can be unimpeded in the world, like a ghost that no one can see, so it's called the Ghost Fleet." Yang Chung smiled and said, "Jane is very clear about the destructive power this system can bring. It can sneak attack any military stronghold in the world, because this technology is nearly 30 years ahead of the world's technology. So, she asked me to promise that this system must not be used by any other forces or countries. I swore to keep my promise, and I must do what I said." Hanya showed an envious look. Princess Jane must be very pleased that Master remembered his promise to her so clearly. Yang Chung shrugged. For a woman who had done so much for him, there was no reason to forget his promise to her. But Huaxia's Ming family must hate Master to the bone. "I'm afraid it'll be difficult to go back now," Hanya said worriedly. Yang Chung smiled playfully. "Looking at the time, the Ming family should have received my gift by now. Give the phone to Mingyu and tell her to call Meng Kaiyuan again." Mengyu was mercilessly dragged out again. At this moment, this woman's face was as white as paper and her expression was wooden, as if she was immersed in an inextricable pain. After being slapped twice by Hanya, she finally heard what she was called. A hint of resistance appeared in her eyes, but she couldn't resist Hanya's raised wrist, so she could only make the call. As soon as the call connected, he heard Meng Kaiyuan's furious roar. "Bastard! Yang Chung, are you still human? You're worse than a dog. Do you think my Meng family will be afraid of you?" "Grandfather, it's me." Mengyu bit her lips, her eyes red. When Meng Kaiyuan heard this, he panted heavily and said, Why is it you? Give the phone to Yang Chung. Let him listen." Mengyu seemed to have been struck by lightning and almost dropped the phone on the deck. Her heart, which was already on the verge of breaking, seemed to have shattered into countless grains of sand at this moment. Chapter 1411. Meng Kaiyuan was so angry that he couldn't care less about what Meng Yu was thinking. At this moment, his granddaughter's safety was secondary. The family's reputation and his face as the head of the family were the most important. Yang Cheng took the phone from Meng Yu's hand. Looking at the woman's dazed expression, he didn't feel any sympathy. Being born in such a large family, one's status depended entirely on one's own ability. In fact, one should have seen through it long ago. It was just that a daughter like Meng Yu was too pampered. Even now, she still held onto the illusion that she was really special and irreplaceable in the eyes of the elders. "Old man, what's wrong? Are you excited this time?" Yang Cheng said with a smile. On the other end of the phone, in the conference hall of the Meng family in Zhonghai, the Meng family and the South China Gang's upper echelons were already in an uproar. All of this was because a few minutes ago, a servant had passed in a box of discs and a letter. These two things had already been firmly suppressed under Meng Kaiyuan's palm. "You want to use these to threaten me? Do you think I, Meng Kaiyuan, am so easy to deal with? I don't want to waste my breath with you. The things have already been delivered. They are just copies, and the original is in my hands. If you want to save your family's face, you'd better obediently let my father-in-law and mother-in-law go. Go back to where you came from. Don't provoke me." After Yang Cheng finished speaking, he directly hung up the phone. Meng Kaiyuan's throat emitted a voice like grinding gears because of his anger. After his facial muscles twitched, he directly smashed the phone into pieces. On the high platform, the only remaining guardian elder, Meng Qi, suppressed his anger and said in a low voice, "Meng Kaiyuan, you'd better settle this matter immediately." "How dare you?" After saying that, Meng Qi didn't seem to want to stay here any longer. He flew out of the conference hall and disappeared. Meng Kaiyuan, whose eyes were bloodshot, lowered his head and agreed. As soon as Meng Qi left, he roared towards the guards in the conference hall. "Go, call Meng Qin, Meng Zhixin, and Zhongling over." Everyone in the conference hall was uneasy. Some were secretly gloating and looking forward to it. Meng Qin and Meng Zhixin did not have the qualifications to discuss matters here, as they were not Huanan Gang's direct descendants. However, Meng Ke and Meng Zhilong, who were the hall master and vice sect master respectively, were present. At this moment, the two of them had gloomy expressions on their faces. They revealed a fierce glint, and their expressions were complicated and indescribable. At the same time, in a luxurious guest room of the Meng family's villa, a scene of white flesh being eroded was playing out. On the big bed at the center of the room, Meng Zhixin was making love to an enchanting woman who was also naked. One of Meng Zhixin's hands was on the woman's breasts, pinching them into all kinds of weird shapes. The soft flesh looked like it had been whipped, and there were traces of red marks on it. Her other hand was hugging the woman's waist. Although she was a little fat on her waist due to her age, it added to the charm of a mature woman. The two's private parts were constantly colliding at high speed, making splashing sounds. The woman's hair was disheveled, and she was sweating profusely. It was as if her soul had left her body. Swaying her white body, she suddenly raised her head and let out a high-pitched scream. Her whole body began to convulse. This woman was Meng Zhixin's stepmother, Zhongling. Meng Zhixin obviously did not have any pity for her. Regardless of Zhongling's naked body, he continued to thrust forward. His hand that was grabbing the snowy peaks on her breasts was now grabbing Zhongling's hair. As if he was riding a mare, Meng Zhixin roared in a low voice. Finally, he thrust forward and poured his essence into his mother. Zhongling was invaded by a boiling hot feeling. She was so excited that her eyes rolled back as if she was about to faint. But in the end, she showed a satisfied smile, turned around, and threw herself into Meng Zhixin's arms lazily. Meng Zhixin also vented his irritation. One of his hands slid down Zhongling's back, and the other took a cigarette and lit it for himself. The mother and son were obviously used to this atmosphere as they smoked. "My dear Xiao Xinxin, you're great today." Zhongling smiled in satisfaction and said, "You're getting stronger and stronger, much stronger than your father's silver spear and wax head." "Don't talk about my father on my bed," Meng Zhixin said coldly. What are you afraid of? The dignified Meng Zhixin is actually a soft worm. Ha! People will definitely laugh at you if they know about it, Zhang Ling said disdainfully. Meng Zhixin's hand ruthlessly grabbed Zhang Ling's chest and twisted it, causing Zhang Ling to scream in pain. Let me tell you, no matter how useless he is, he's still my father. I don't care if you like it, but don't talk nonsense. Meng Zhixin said coldly. Zhang Ling looked at him with grievance. Xin, you know I like you. I really love you. If it wasn't for my father's decision to ally with Meng Qin, I would rather stay single for the rest of my life for you. Tisk, Meng Zhixin sneered. All right, save it in front of me. A slut like you still wants to talk about love with me. A hint of sadness flashed through Zhang Ling's eyes, but it was fleeting. She chuckled. That's right. I'm a slut who seduced my own son. I don't deserve to talk about love. Then isn't that Li Jingjing you like? Seducing a married man and doing it so brazenly. Shut up. Meng Zhixin thought of how Yang Cheng had taken Li Jingjing, and the anger in his heart surged again. Zhang Ling wasn't afraid at all. She sneered, I wonder where Yang Cheng went this time. He even took Meng Yu as a hostage. The heavens are really helping us. As long as Meng Yu dies, the competition for the family's direct descendants will most likely be your brother Meng Zhilong's strongest competitor. Meng Zhilong is much easier to deal with than Meng Yu. At that time, just as he was halfway through his words, the family guards knocked on the door. Young Master Zhixin, the gang leader invites you and second madam to the meeting hall. Zhang Ling and Meng Zhixin's expressions both changed. They weren't afraid of being discovered. The door was locked, and it wasn't a big deal for their mother to be in their son's room. Why would they invite us to such a meeting? Zhang Ling asked curiously. Meng Zhixin got up and began to put on his clothes. Anyway, Yang Cheng is gone. What's there to be afraid of? Maybe something really happened to Meng Yu. Hearing this, Zhang Ling's face lit up. She immediately took some tissues to dry the sticky liquid on her body, sprayed some perfume, and got ready to go. In less than 10 minutes, Meng Zhixin and Zhang Ling arrived at the meeting hall, and Meng Qin was already there. Almost everyone in the meeting hall looked at the three of them with a strange look. The air was filled with a suffocating smell. Meng Kaiyuan looked at his grandson and daughter-in-law without any love in his eyes, only ruthless indifference and hatred. Dad, why did you call us here? Meng Qin sensed that something was wrong, and his smile was a little forced. Meng Kaiyuan threw a CD in front of Meng Qin. Go and play a video on the CD. Hearing this, many people looked at Meng Kaiyuan in surprise, as if the CD shouldn't be played. Meng Zhilong and Meng K almost went up to stop him. Although Meng Qin was puzzled, he didn't dare to hesitate. He walked to the projector and put the CD in. He clicked on a video file on the CD, and the video immediately appeared on the huge projector screen. In a luxurious hotel suite, a man and a woman were crazily doing the most primitive exercise. Meng Zhixin and Zhang Ling's faces turned pale, and Meng Zhixin's legs went soft, and he knelt on the ground. How this is... Meng Qin's eyes were bloodshot, and he turned around in disbelief, looking at his second son who had knelt on the ground. Zhang Ling murmured in disbelief. How could this be? This was the absurd thing that she and Meng Zhixin did in the hotel, and she couldn't even remember which day it was. How could there be a video? Then, Zhang Ling seemed to think of something, and she turned around and screamed at the kneeling Meng Zhixin. Meng Zhixin, it's you? How dare you secretly record it? Zhang Ling didn't understand why there would be a CCTV in the hotel she went to, but after thinking about it carefully, it could only be Meng Zhixin. Otherwise, who would dare to play tricks under the eyes of the Meng family? She helped Meng Zhixin, but Meng Zhixin didn't completely trust her. He recorded the passionate video of them and kept it as a trump card to control himself in the future. Meng Zhixin's mind was in a mess. This video was hidden in the safe box in his private mansion. So how did it fall into Meng Kaiyuan's hands? But no matter what was done could not be undone, and everyone present had probably accidentally seen it all. Meng Zhixin, who was drenched in cold sweat, immediately cried and kneeled on the ground. Grandpa, Grandpa, you have to believe me. I was tricked by that bitch Zhongling, and that's why I did such a disgraceful thing. This wasn't my intention." Without waiting for Meng Kaiyuan to speak, Meng Qin had already rushed forward and kicked his youngest son. "Shut up, unfilial son. I'll kick you to death." The scene was a mess, and the two men and one woman had become a complete laughingstock. As the elder brothers, Meng Kai and Meng Zhelong, couldn't understand why Meng Kaiyuan had to expose the family's dirty linen again. "All of you shut up. Kneel." Before they could figure it out, Meng Kaiyuan had already shouted, and everyone quieted down. Meng Qin, Meng Zhixin, and Zhongling were all red in the face, and they knelt on the ground in fear, not daring to lift their heads. Chapter 14:12. Meng Kaiyuan's voice was like a great bell, and his eyes were like knives as he stared at the three of them. "I, Meng Kaiyuan, have failed to discipline you and raised you three evil creatures. You have lost the face of the Meng family and damaged the reputation of the Meng family. Today, if I don't set an example, I, Meng Kaiyuan, will not be able to convince everyone to lead the Huanan gang, and I am not worthy of being the head of the family. Now, I will kill these three evil creatures in front of all my brothers and the elders of the collateral family. I will make an example out of righteousness." After saying that, Meng Kaiyuan suddenly pulled out a loaded Browning pistol from the waist of his personal guard and aimed at his second son, Meng Qin. Everyone was shocked. No one thought that Meng Kaiyuan would be crazy enough to kill his own son and grandson to consolidate his position and quell the anger of the elders. Meng Kai quickly grabbed his father's arm and persuaded, "Dad, this is all Yang Cheng's trick to make us kill each other. Don't be fooled." Meng Kaiyuan shook off his eldest son's hand. "Even if it wasn't Yang Cheng who sent this, I, Meng Kaiyuan, will not allow my descendants to be inferior to pigs and dogs." Bang, bang, bang. 3 consecutive gunshots, and the smell of gunpowder stimulated the nerves of everyone present. Almost everyone was stunned. Meng Kai and Meng Zhelong did not expect Meng Kaiyuan to shoot so suddenly. They did not even have time to stop him. Meng Qin, Meng Zhixin, and Zhongling's faces were fixed with disbelief and unwillingness. Their foreheads had been pierced by bullets, and there were bleeding holes as the 3 warm corpses fell to the ground. Meng Kaiyuan's eyes flashed with a hint of pain, and it was quickly covered by a touch of ferocity. The old man could sit in the position of the gang leader for decades, and his prestige was as high as a mountain. He relied on extreme cruelty and iron blood, even to his own children and grandchildren. If he had no choice, he would kill them. The people present originally had some thoughts of ridiculing him, but now they did not dare to gossip anymore. They were even more afraid of Meng Kaiyuan, and they were obedient to him. Meng Kaiyuan's 3 shots not only killed the 3 scum of the Meng family, but also cut off many people's thoughts of seizing power. Perhaps it was because of the gunshots, but Man Chi, who had floated out earlier, returned to the conference hall with a slightly relieved expression. Meng Kaiyuan bowed and said, "Elder, the 3 evil beasts have been killed as a sign of respect for the family rules." Man Chi nodded in satisfaction. "Not bad. I didn't make a mistake. If you don't handle this matter well, you don't need to be the patriarch anymore. I already have a plan. I'll ask the clan's old ancestors and find someone to replace you. This old man is very satisfied with your handling of this matter. But this matter is not over yet. Yang Cheng, that bastard, is biting our Meng family's weakness. What are you going to do?" "Don't worry, Elder. Actually, the name list that Yang Cheng brought isn't much of a threat. I'll give Premier Ning of the Ning family a call right now. I believe he'll be able to counterattack." "That's good." Meng Qi didn't ask any more questions. These mundane matters should be left to Meng Kaiyuan to think about. He only cared about whether or not the clan's spirit treasure could be found. With a turn of his body, he wrapped up his black robe and swiftly left the meeting hall. In fact, Meng Qi had gone out earlier because he had suffered quite a bit of anger, and secondly, he had gone out to see if he had seen Meng Qua and the other 2 elders return. In the end, Meng Qua and the other 2 didn't seem to have returned. This made Meng Qi puzzled. Logically speaking, after such a long time, The entire Pacific Ocean should have circled once. After all, Yang Chung was still on the phone. There was no reason for Meng Kuo and the other two to not be able to find Yang Chung. On the Pacific Ocean, the water was blue and the sea breeze was blowing. On the deck of the Erebos, Yang Chung was sunbathing. Beside him, Henya had already changed into a bikini and was kneeling beside Yang Chung. She did her best to serve her master food and drink while massaging him. The female ninja's proud upper body was like a wave, and a certain part of her pink thong could be faintly seen. Her two buttocks were white and clean, as if she wasn't wearing anything at all. She was extremely sexy. Yang Chung knew that this woman had always been unable to find a sense of security because he hadn't slept with her, but Yang Chung really didn't want to get into any more romantic debt. Although a woman like Hanya was purely offering herself as a sacrifice and didn't need him to be responsible, he still felt that he had let down Lin Ruoshi. Even if the woman had already decided to divorce him, Yang Cheng's heart was still worried. More than half an hour had passed, and Yang Chung had been waiting for the news the entire time. He was guessing how the Meng clan would be in chaos right now. Finally, the news came. Yang Cheng's phone rang. Hanya was a very professional secretary. She placed the phone in a comfortable position for Yang Chung and pressed the answer button. Yang Chung, you've really dug a hole for yourself this time. The one who called was Li Mo's-hen. What do you mean? Yang Chung asked. Did you use spy channels to investigate all the officials who were involved with the Meng clan, their corrupt background, as well as their shady lovers, illegitimate children, and especially their overseas assets? Yang Chung suddenly smiled. Oh, so you know? The news is quite fast. I did check all this information. It's not difficult for me to check. I have the world's most powerful hackers and the most powerful agents. I just gave the list of officials related to the Meng clan to Meng Kaiyuan. The specific evidence is in my hands. These things you should also want to know. Doesn't the number one chief want to know who under his eyes should be killed? 2 days ago, Yang Chung arranged for Maekdan to search for the information of these officials related to the Meng clan. He was waiting for this moment to give a head-on blow. If the Meng clan lost so many years of operating the network, the loss would be great. You're confused, Li Mo's-hen scolded. You're too naive. Do you think that the chief doesn't know about these people and this information you found? You can find it from abroad. Can't we find it in our country? It's not that we don't know these people are related to the Meng clan, but even if they are indeed corrupt and do some shady business, these people can't be moved and replaced. Yang Chen was puzzled. What do you mean? Could it be that they gave money to number one? Yang Chen never participated in politics, just like he didn't do business. For these things, he only looked at it on the surface and didn't know much. Li Mo's-hen smiled bitterly and said, Do you think that corrupt officials can be killed? As the saying goes, if you don't look out for yourself, heaven and earth will destroy you. An official is a job that does not produce social labor. To put it bluntly, this kind of administrative function, from the beginning of his birth, is destined to continue with exploitation and privilege. You may think that I'm shameless, but as an official, if he is not greedy, is he really purely serving the people, sacrificing himself to help others? Do you think that in this society, how many people can do this? Yang Chung was stunned. Sacrificing himself to help others, perhaps only Buddha would do this. In this world, no country's officials are truly incorruptible. Maybe there are, but only a few. Out of 10 officials, 9 are corrupt. This is inevitable. This is human nature. People often hate corrupt officials because they don't have the opportunity to be an official. If they can be an official, will they really be an incorruptible official? Not necessarily. As the number one official, what he considers is whether this official has any achievements. If someone else replaces him, will he really do better than him? It's not that he is a corrupt official, so he should be replaced immediately. Governing a country is not to be swayed by emotions. You can't blindly be black nor blindly be white. If you can't stand the sand in your eyes, then you are a nationalistic youth, not a country scholar. Li Moshen's words made Yang Chung finally come back to his senses. Although I don't fully agree with your words, but I understand. Yang Chung smiled helplessly and said, It seems that even if Meng family really confesses, you will not deal with them. That's inevitable. Many of these officials are department-level officials and even ministerial-level officials. They have their own connections. Your name list? We must suppress it. Don't think otherwise. Meng family is not something you can easily shake. Moreover, your move has made number one very dissatisfied. Let me tell you, Yang Cheng, Meng family may worry about the number one official in Yang family, so they won't dare to capture the woman around you, your daughter. But if number one is not satisfied with you, forget about kidnapping your woman, your daughter. Even if he kills your woman, you have no way to resist. Chapter 14:13. Vice Premier Li, aren't you being too disrespectful with your words? Yang Cheng was a little annoyed and said, I am not a soft persimmon that can be pinched easily. Even if number one's background is extraordinary, if he could cure me, he wouldn't let me sunbathe here peacefully. Limo's hen sighed and said, Yang Cheng, I am now speaking to you as an elder. Uncle Li, I have always liked you as a young man. First, you have a good relationship with my grandson, and you saved that little bastard's life. Second, our generation is old, and there are too few capable young people in Huaxia. You will be our hope. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't put too much importance on your face. You are not qualified to really think that you are invincible in the world. It is not a big deal to show your sincerity in front of number one. Number one is not that kind of unreasonable person. Think about it. You sent warships to bomb Zhonghai and also made the matter of the Meng family so public. Number one did not directly deal with you, which is already giving you a lot of face. Don't be too domineering. What is the difference between you and a hedonistic young master? With Li Mashan's soft words, Yang Cheng was too embarrassed to play the hero. Indeed, he did go too far. Not only did he not give in, but he also involved the face of the military and the government of Huaxia. For number one, this country is protected by him. It would be strange if he didn't feel ashamed to be fired a few missiles for no reason. If it were not for the fact that he did have a lot of power overseas, perhaps number one would not have held back until now. Li Mo's hen continued, those officials will definitely not be moved. In order to consolidate his position, Meng Kaiyuan even showed his determination in front of number one. Even his own son Meng Qin, grandson Meng Zhixin, and that woman named Zhang Ling were executed together. Think about it, an old man who can even kill his own son and grandson. How can he be moved so easily? You are still holding on to the Meng family's spirit treasure. You have already taken advantage of it. It is time to stop. Yang Cheng was stunned. He didn't expect Meng Kaiyuan to be so decisive. He had underestimated that old man. Uncle Li, you said it yourself. This matter has already affected number one's reputation. You must give an explanation. But the Meng clan will not let me go back to Huaxia. Most likely they will send people to find trouble with me. Even if I want to go back to Huaxia and continue living my life, it won't be that easy. Yang Cheng was somewhat helpless. To be honest, living a good life in Zhonghai, spending more time with his women, and watching his precious daughter grow up was exactly the life that Yang Cheng yearned for. Li Mo's hen can tell that Yang Cheng has the intention to change his mind. He chuckled and said, I heard from old Yang that you are quick-witted when it comes to practicing martial arts, but you are a fool when it comes to handling certain matters. It seems to be true. Don't keep me guessing. Why are you the same as my old man? Last time, he said something about me. What does he mean? Yang Cheng was still worried about Yang Gongming's words. Li Mo's hen smiled mysteriously. In fact, it is very simple. You want to go back to Huaxia, but you don't want to be disturbed by the Meng clan. As long as number one is willing to come forward, it will be solved. Zongnanhai, chief number one's office. The office with simple decorations covers a large area, but there are not many furnishings. Every piece of furniture is old, and there are many antiques that have been touched by the leaders of the past generations. In front of the wide rosewood desk, Ning Guangyao, dressed in a suit, was standing there solemnly, facing the smiling chief number one. Chief, many cadres in the south are complaining. Some people in the military are also pressuring Yang Cheng. They think that this time, Yang Cheng went too far and insulted the prestige of the country. If there is no explanation, I'm afraid this matter will affect the unity of our party. Number one calmly smiled and said, I also know that Minister Li is talking to Yangcheng. After all, our Huaxia is a country of etiquette. We can turn weapons of war into gifts of jade and silk. Ensuring the safety of the people is the first priority. If you want to make a move on Yangcheng, it will cost you a lot of money. But, Ning Guangyao said, Chief, in order to deal with the Meng clan, Yangcheng dared to investigate so many of our important officials. If he continues to be so unruly, in order to retaliate against the Meng clan, I'm afraid it will cause social unrest in our country. Number one bowed his head and looked at the copy of the list on the table. Below the list, there are many specific corruption contents of the officials. If this information is spread out, it is indeed enough to cause turmoil in the whole country. This made his face not look good. Ning Guangyao was secretly proud in his heart. He thought that this Yangcheng was really a newborn calf. Lacking some meticulous thinking, this kind of information related to the stability of the country, he dared to investigate it and take it out as he pleased. He thought that he could deal with the Meng clan. Who would have thought that this would help the Meng clan? Does he really think that no one can subdue him? Although Ning Guangyao himself didn't know what kind of people were supporting him from the information that came out from the Ning family, he knew that it was definitely not an overwhelming force that Yangcheng can resist. All right, Chief. Ning Guangyao planned to continue to use strong medicine. Just now, I received a call from Meng Kaiyuan. He said that the Meng clan will bear the losses caused this time and will donate 20% of this year's military expenses to the Jiangnan military region. The Meng clan doesn't want their family to have a conflict with Yangcheng and cause the military and the government to be in trouble. They are very considerate of our work. Number one revealed a smile. Oh, old Meng is really a patriot, respectable and commendable. Sigh, it's just that Yangcheng really doesn't know what's good for him. Number one, you have to endure it again and again, but he is so presumptuous again and again. Ning Guangyao looked like he hated iron for not becoming steel. Old Meng said that the Meng clan is very worried about Meng Yu, who fell into the hands of Yangcheng. They are willing to exchange Lu Qinshan and his wife for Meng Yu. As for the Meng clan's spiritual treasure, it was also robbed by Yangcheng. If number one can make the decision to let Yangcheng return the spiritual treasure, they will also donate 5 additional large airports to the 4 provinces of the Central Plains for free. Ning Guangyao tossed out the benefits one after another. These were naturally what Meng Kaiyuan had told him to do. Originally, Meng Kaiyuan couldn't open his mouth to speak of this. There was the suspicion of using the power in number one's hands. But this time, Yangcheng's approach has caused number one's dissatisfaction. He could push the boat with the current and let number one feel that the Meng clan is much more reliable than Yangcheng. Number one's brows twisted. It's not that he couldn't see the inside of this, but as the supreme leader, he doesn't need to consider whether to use or not, and he doesn't need to consider who is right and who is wrong. At present, it seems that standing up for the Meng clan is indeed more beneficial to the country. He has gradually lost his patience with Yangcheng. At this moment, Li Mozhen, who has been talking to Yangcheng outside, knocked on the door of the office and walked in. At this time, the Li clan's patriarch's face was like a spring breeze. There was an unknown smile on his face. He looked at Ning Guangyao with interest. Chief, I've finished talking to Yangcheng. Li Mozhen stood together with Ning Guangyao and said respectfully. Number one asked calmly, does he have any regrets? Li Mozhen nodded slightly, then shook his head. He has no regrets, he said. I want to make a deal with you. As soon as these words came out, Ning Guangyao frowned, obviously very puzzled. Oh, interesting. Chief number one chuckled and said, I've been working in the department since I was young, and I've never done business before. What does he mean? Did he agree to hand over the stealth technology of the fleet? Li Mozhen sorted out his thoughts and said leisurely, Yangcheng still refuses to hand over the stealth technology. However, he is willing to use his influence abroad to increase the oil imports of Huaxia by 60 million tons every year from the Middle East and Central Asia for the next 5 years at a 50% discount on the price of crude oil. What? Not only did number one's expression change, but Ning Guangyao also opened his mouth in shock. Impossible. This Isn't this like using half the price to import 1/5 more oil every year? After 5 years, it's equivalent to using half the price to buy one more year of oil. Ning Guangyao cried out involuntarily. Everyone present was a big shot who was extremely familiar with the country's economy and energy lifeline. With the current annual oil imports of Huaxia of less than 300 million tons, no one knew better than them what 60 million tons of oil at half the price meant every year. At this moment, Number One's eyes revealed a hint of fanaticism. For the first time, he became excited. Speak. What are his conditions? Chapter 14:14. No wonder Number One couldn't wait to know the details of the deal. After all, oil was the blood needed to run the world's machines and the power of industry. Oil wasn't something that people would be willing to sell just because you had the money. There were only so many resources in the world. If you wanted to snatch food from the tiger's mouth from the US and the EU, you had to pay the price. As the world's second largest oil importer, Huaxia's desire for oil was even greater. After all, Huaxia couldn't start a war for oil, but the US could. This kind of secular competition and tug-of-war between countries was what Number One was most concerned about. As for the matter between the cultivators of Huaxia and the gods, it was a different level of competition. Number One himself was only a spokesperson and wouldn't directly intervene. Limousin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Yang Cheng said that a woman named Li Jingjing beside him wants to enter politics, but it's too slow to start from the bottom. He hopes that you can help Li Jingjing reach the top in a short period of time and gain real power. Not only was Number One a little surprised, but even Ning Guangyao felt it was unbelievable. That's it, Chief One asked in disbelief. Limousin nodded. He said he didn't ask for anything else. The descendants of the Yang family are really stubborn. He's not willing to give in. Number One smiled and looked very amiable. Chief, I've checked the information on the woman named Li Jingjing. There's nothing wrong with her. Her background is clean, and her family used to be very poor. When Yang Cheng was still selling mutton skewers in the market, he fell in love with a woman Yang Cheng knew. As the head of intelligence, Limousin got this information easily. Chief One nodded approvingly and said with a smile, "The fact that a young woman can fall in love with a mutton skewer seller means that she's simple and honest. There won't be any problem with her character. How about this? I'll personally ask someone to prepare a letter of appointment and help her get a diplomatic resume. Just say that she's from a certain embassy in Europe. In this way, she can enter the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a young overseas official. Isn't the director of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs a woman? This way, Yang Cheng would probably be more at ease. After she trains for a while, she could try to be a spokesperson or something like that. Let's just get a department-level promotion now. You see, that's not a problem, right?" Limousin naturally agreed. The bureau chief's arrangements are very detailed. I don't think Yang Cheng will have any objections. And in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in the future, Li Jingjing can also talk to Yang Cheng about some things. Let his woman talk to him about problems. He must be embarrassed to refuse a lot of things. In fact, with Number One protecting her, everyone had to open their claws and see clearly. Who would dare to touch Li Jingjing? Number One smiled and pointed at the old man. Oh you, why do you have to tell me all about my little tricks?" It could be seen that Number One was in a good mood and was quite pleased with himself. If he could really use Li Jingjing to get more benefits from Yang Cheng, it would be killing two birds with one stone. At this moment, Ning Guangyao's face was a little stiff. Meng Kaiyuan asked him to help, but now that Number One was obviously tempted by the benefits Yang Cheng offered, he had no reason not to help Yang Cheng. Gritting his teeth, Ning Guangyao smiled stiffly and said, "Bureau Chief, Yang Cheng can't be boasting, right? 300 million tons of half-price crude oil for 5 consecutive years. Not to mention that the price is astronomical, the implications are also very unusual. It's hard to guarantee that the United Nations and the international public will be pressured by it." As soon as these words came out, the smiling Number One's face changed. He put on a fake smile and lowered his head. He took the teacup on the table and gently took a sip. "Premier Ning, Young people are willing to serve and contribute to the country. Moreover, they are the descendants of a red general family. We should encourage them more, don't you think? When he raised his head, there was a hint of cold anger in number one's eyes. Ning Guangyao was startled. This was the first time he saw number one looking at him with this kind of eyes. He was also a dignified country's prime minister, but unexpectedly, he was suppressed to the point that he didn't dare to breathe. That generous and amiable chief, at this time, did not have half a smile on his face. Instead, he was like a high mountain with irresistible power that deterred him. This was not the cultivation base of a cultivator, but the majesty of a country's number one chief sitting in this position. Ning Guangyao had a strong hunch that number one must have long known that he had a close cooperation with the Meng family. It's just that number one's idea was to look at the overall situation. If it wasn't a critical moment, he would not point it out. This time, the benefits that Yang Cheng could bring to the country were far more than the Meng family's little money. Therefore, number one was not willing to interfere. Swallowing his saliva, Ning Guangyao forced a smile and nodded. Yes, I was overthinking. Number one returned to his smiling face, as if nothing had happened just now. He said, "You were thinking too much. That kid even broke into the CIA in the United States alone, and even changed their director. How many countries in the Middle East could do that? As long as he is willing to do it, he won't boast. It's just that without enough benefits, he won't be so obedient." Chief, Yang Cheng only made this one request, the Meng family. Li Mozhen hesitated and didn't know what to say. Number one waved his hand and said, "Even if Yang Cheng didn't mention it, I would still take care of it. A young man who serves the country, I can't let his heart be cold. You go and tell Meng Kaiyuan, don't make trouble. He should rest. He is old. He should take care of his body. Tell him to release the hostage and exchange it with the hostage in Yang Cheng's hand. This matter will end here. The Meng family's dirty linen must not be spread out. As for the spirit treasure, say that Yang Cheng is not willing to exchange the family's spirit treasure, but give him real evidence and use legal means to solve it. If he dares to make trouble again, he will be dealt with according to the law. But the forces behind the Meng family, I said this is a society ruled by law. The forces behind the Meng family must also abide by the law." Number one's fingers tapped on the desk. Li Mozhen laughed in his heart. What number one said about dealt with according to the law was nothing more than a warning to the Meng family. Yang Cheng is of great use to the country. Whoever dares to touch him will harm the national interest. He will not be polite. As for how number one will restrict the forces behind the Meng family, he must have his own ability, so he can't ask more. After talking about these things, number one also specifically mentioned a few words about the Yang family. Yang Pejuan retired from the Jiangnan military region commander and went to the military school to be a professor. Number one felt that it was a waste of talent, so he directly restored him back to his position as the commander of the Jiangnan military region and removed the acting commander. Guo Shuahua raises money for various places to open orphanages all year round, so she should also issue a series of medals. Although there's been such honor before, this kind of honor, the more the better. As the head of the military commission and the political circle, this kind of thing is nothing more than a few words. Of course, the premise of all this is that Yang Cheng must implement the oil contract within 3 days and promise not to take the initiative to find the Meng family after returning to China. Number one readily agreed, which didn't make Yang Cheng feel surprised. 300 million tons of oil in 5 years. Whoever doesn't agree is a fool. Although it's not an exaggeration for Yang Cheng to have eyes and ears in foreign countries. After all, most of these relationships were inadvertently saved by some dignitaries, or sought protection from some people, or took over from the previous king of hell. These relationships are not particularly close. Although they are willing to give him face, there is also a limit. This time, when he sent oil to Huaxia, Yang Cheng also has to subsidize the oil oligarchs in the Middle East. Although it's affordable for Yang Cheng, it's still tens of billions of dollars. If he says that he doesn't feel pain, he would be deceiving himself. Henya knew that this crisis has been offset by Yang Cheng with oil. While admiring Yang Cheng for being able to make such a big deal, she also felt that it was not worth it for Yangcheng. Master, Huaxia's leader is too stingy. The price you paid is too high. If it were the leaders of other countries, they would have already helped you to dispose of those bastards. How can he pretend that he doesn't know anything and easily spare the Meng family? It's too easy for them. Yang Sheng had just finished a phone call to Lu Mingyu to report the safety of Lu Qingshan and his wife. At this moment, he ordered old Fanny to sail the yacht to the Zhonghai port. After he was done, he turned to Hanya and said, "You are wrong. This is what I want to see. I don't want anyone to deal with the Meng family for me." Hanya was stunned, and then said in surprise, "Could it be, after Master returns to China, you still want to continue to fight with the Meng family?" "Not now." The dark waves in Yang Cheng's eyes surged. "When I recover my strength and become strong enough, I will personally wash away today's shame. I was beaten like a dead dog. I will bite back like a mad dog. The people of the Meng family laid a fence in my heart and obstructed my Tao. If I can't personally get rid of the shadow laid by the Meng family in this life, because of this matter, it will be difficult for me to reach the peak I want to go to." Hanya stared at Yang Cheng blankly. Obviously, for Japanese ninjas, Tao was too illusory and completely unknown. Seeing the woman's silly look, Yang Cheng felt funny. He subconsciously scratched her forehead, messed up her bangs, and then turned around and walked out of the cabin with a smile. Such an unintentional action made Hanya lower her head shyly, and her beautiful watery eyes revealed the joy of a young girl in love. Chapter 14-15. In Zhonghai, nightlife had already begun. On a street full of bars, neon lights teased people's nerves and stimulated the hormones of young men and women. Under the bright purple and red light, the crowd was bustling with activity. Peddlers selling cigarettes, alcohol, and snacks were everywhere. In a small, smoky bar, there weren't as many customers as in the other big bars on the street, but there were already several tables full of customers drinking heartily. However, at this moment, many of the customers and waiters in the bar were looking in one direction. It was a woman who looked exceptionally quiet. The woman wore a light gray sweater, a black scarf, and tight trousers. She looked neat and elegant. A head of black, soft, and shiny hair hung down her waist. The side profile of her face could be vaguely seen. Her delicate skin looked like a crystal jade carving under the light. That enchanting temperament was like a fairy who didn't eat the food of the mortal world. However, she appeared in this inharmonious and dirty place. The woman was sitting at the bar counter. She ordered a glass of whiskey and slowly sipped it. She seemed to have something on her mind and drank very slowly. About a few minutes later, another beautiful figure that did not match the small bar walked into the bar. However, this time, it was a woman who looked to be in her 30s. She was filled with mature charm. Her hair was tied up in a noble manner, and she wore a black and red winter dress. The material was luxurious, and anyone with a discerning eye could tell that it was expensive. Such a beautiful young lady would come to such a place? This caused the regular customers of the small bar to be somewhat surprised. It seemed that the appearance of these two women had added a bit of beauty to the entire bar. Very quickly, the young woman found the long-haired woman sitting at the bar counter. She revealed a soul-stirring smile, quietly walked over, and sat beside the woman. "Give me a glass of whiskey as well." "Just like her, thank you." The waiter was a young man who had just arrived. Facing the woman in front of him, who had a completely different demeanor, but was also as beautiful as a dream, his expression was unnaturally nervous. He immediately nodded vigorously. Yes, Mississippi from beginning to end. The long-haired woman didn't even look at the charming young woman beside her. It was as if she was immersed in her own world, and everything had nothing to do with her. The beautiful woman drank half of the whiskey, pursed her plump red lips, and turned to the woman beside her. She smiled curiously and said, "Lin Ruashi, I never knew that you would be interested in coming to a place like this. How did you know I was here?" Lin Ruashi turned her face slightly, and her watery eyes rippled as she looked at Tang Wan. "Please, this is Zhonghai, and I've been here for almost 20 years. Every street and every building have been imprinted in my mind. To put it bluntly, when you were still a little kid in kindergarten, still studying in middle school with braids, and a little hipster in university, I was already one of the few people at the top of the pyramid in this city. It was a piece of cake for me to find someone here. Lin Ruashi frowned. Tang, one was saying that she was still very young in front of her. She couldn't help but say, "Your words are really annoying. Anyway, you've never thought that I was good, so I have no reason to make you happy." Tang Wan joked. "What are you doing here? Is it because you quarreled with Yang Cheng, so you came here to get drunk? You don't seem like that kind of woman." Lin Ruashi was silent for a while, and her eyes revealed a bit of reminiscence. Sometimes she was smiling, and sometimes she was sad. "This is the place where I first met him," Lin Ruashi said lightly. This bar was the bar that she accidentally entered because of Lin Cohen's matter, the company's matter, and Su Jihong's matter. All kinds of troubles were mixed together, and she was in pain. She didn't have many memories of that night because she was too muddle-headed and in so much pain that she wanted to die. She had tried countless times to recall why she had chosen this bar, but she couldn't remember the reason. She only felt that it was preordained by the heavens. She also didn't know which bar was good and which was bad, but fortunately, she didn't go to other bars. Otherwise, she might have already walked on a path of no return. Tang Wan was stunned for a while and deliberately teased, "I really thought that you wanted to divorce him, so I came here happily to see you make a fool of yourself. But since you came to this place, I'm afraid that divorce is just a casual talk. Since you miss him so much, it seems like there's no hope of divorce." Lin Ruashi knew that Tang Wan was joking, so she didn't get angry. She just calmly said, "You guessed wrong. I came here not because I miss him, but because I want to cut off my past with him. From this small bar, we came together, and now I came here for the last time to say goodbye to him. I don't have any nostalgia for him anymore. He is not suitable for me, and I am not suitable for him. Our divorce is just a legal process." Tang Wan's smile froze on her face, and her eyes revealed a rare confusion. "I've always thought that I could guess your thoughts, but this time, I can't seem to see through you. Lin Ruashi, you're not really going to divorce me, are you?" "Why not?" Lin Ruashi asked. Tang Wan shook her head and sighed. "I always thought that you were a smart woman. You should know better than anyone that you can't make Yang Cheng love you wholeheartedly. You can become his only wife, which is enough to make us jealous. Why do you have to go to the extreme? Do you really think that you are the most special one? Don't be silly. If it wasn't because the woman Yang Cheng loves the most is you, do you think that the Yang family will let you, the daughter of Ning Guangyao, be their daughter-in-law? Do you really think that in the eyes of Aunt Gua, you are really the most suitable daughter-in-law candidate? Maybe you don't care about this, but enough." Lin Ruashi interrupted Tang Wan's words and asked with a faint smile, "Didn't you always want me to move my seat away? Now that I am going to divorce him, won't you have a better chance?" Tang Wan was a little angry. "You don't have to joke with me like this. I have long given up hope for love. His appearance is already a miracle. I am already very satisfied now, and I don't have any extravagant hopes. I just hope that the man I like can be happy and not leave behind painful regrets. If another woman was in your position today, I would also advise her like this." Lin Ruashi was silent and said sourly, "Now that you put it like this, it seems that I am indeed the most insensible one. Do you have any difficulties? I really can't understand such a simple truth. How can you not understand it? You are not such an impulsive woman." Tang Wan couldn't help but ask. Lin Ruashi's expression was a little complicated, and after a long time, she let out a relieved smile. "This time, you are really wrong. I don't have any difficulties, but there is one thing that I really can't bear." "Is it about Lan Lan?" Lin Ruashi nodded and said with tears in her eyes, "Not only Lan Lan. If Lan Lan was born with any of you, I can accept it. But Lan Lan was born to 17. As long as I see Lan Lan, it is as if that woman also appears in front of me. Tell me, even if she passes away forever, deep in Yang Cheng's heart, he will still love her the most. As long as Lan Lan is at home, Yang Cheng will never forget 17. Do you know, the way he looks at Lan Lan, it is so gentle, so cherishing, so deeply regretful. And because of that, it is as if blood is flowing out of my heart, and I can't stop it no matter what." Tang Wan didn't know much about 17, But she also knew that it was that woman who made Yang Chung disheartened and return to Huaxia. Lin Ruoxi, you are so willing to lose to a woman who is already dead? Tang Wan asked. Ha! Lin Ruoxi chuckled and revealed a trace of helplessness. She is dead, but she will forever live in that man's heart. I lost completely. Tang Wan stared at the woman, as if it was her first time seeing her, and her eyes were a little blurred. I realized that this time, I really can't see through you. In that case, I've won this time, Lin Ruoxi said coldly. She raised her head and downed the whiskey in one gulp. She exhaled, put down a red bill, and turned to walk out of the bar. But at this moment, a burly man in a dark green coat with a buzz cut and two companions blocked Lin Ruoxi's way with an evil smile on his face. Chapter 14:16. Pretty lady, you're leaving so soon? It's still early. Do you want to have a drink with me? The man with the buzz cut asked casually. Lin Ruoxi furrowed her brows impatiently. She circled around and prepared to continue walking. Hey, why aren't you replying? Are you looking down on us? Another man reached out to stop Lin Ruoxi. Don't be so rude. The man with the buzz cut smiled and asked his companion to step aside. He leaned closer to Lin Ruoxi and smelled the faint jasmine fragrance. He smiled and said, Pretty lady, we're all civilized people. We won't be rough. Let's have a drink together. Many people in the bar saw this scene and did not make a sound. These three men were also troublemakers in this area. Relying on their connections in the police station, they had done a lot of immoral things in their daily lives, so they were not surprised at all. Tang Wan saw that Lin Ruoxi was stopped and didn't do anything. She thought that the woman didn't know how to deal with it, so she stood up and walked over to help her. She didn't want to stay here for long anyway. She could just leave together. But before Tang Wan could walk behind Lin Ruoxi, the woman suddenly moved. Lin Ruoxi's eyes were filled with coldness. Without any expression on her face, she suddenly grabbed the man's throat with one hand. Then, Lin Ruoxi's arm easily pressed down. The man's body was like a wooden club, smashing hard on the floor. Bang! The man felt as if all the bones in his body were broken. His throat was grabbed, and he had difficulty breathing. His eyeballs were about to fall out. Lin Ruoxi slowly stood up. Her white sneakers had stepped on a man's face and crushed the bridge of his nose. A stream of blood flowed from his nose. His white sneakers were stained with bright red flowers of blood. But that wasn't the main thing. What made the three men feel cold was the cold aura that the woman exuded. This kind of indescribable psychological pressure made them feel extremely fragile, like withered leaves drifting in the wind, about to shatter into pieces at any time. If they were people from the underground world, they would definitely know that this was an incomparably condensed killing intent. Lin Ruoxi glanced at the two men who were still standing, and both of them shuddered. Do you still need another drink? The two men swallowed their saliva, and one of them replied with a trembling voice, No. Lin Ruoxi quickly retracted her foot. She didn't even frown when she saw the stains on her sneakers. She didn't even bother to look at the crew-cut man who was lying on the ground with a broken nose. She quickly walked out of the bar and disappeared into the endless crowd. The lights on the bar street were still magnificent, but everyone who saw this felt gloomy. Tang Wan stood in a daze for a while. When she came back to her senses, Lin Ruoxi had already disappeared. Faintly sighing, Tang Wan found that she had never felt that her IQ was not enough. What happened to all of this? Hanzhong City, Meng family's meeting hall. Hall guardian Elder Meng Qi sat at the head of the table. On one side was the patriarch Meng Kaiyuan, and below him were a group of Huanan gang's top brass and Meng family's direct descendants. Many of the people present had ugly expressions on their faces, because from the atmosphere, they could tell that this was not something to be happy about. Meng Qi pondered for a moment, and then said in a clear voice, This old man has just received instructions from the ancestor. This time, because of the enmity with Yang Chung, we can't make a big move for the time being. My Meng family's clan, protecting spirit treasure, must be taken back, but considering the stability of the country and the enmity with Yang Chung, it is not appropriate to make it too public. Therefore, in the future, we must make a decision after a long discussion. From today onwards, if anyone dares to find trouble with Yang Cheng and the people around him in private, they will be punished for betraying the gang and the family. They couldn't believe that even with the Meng family's heaven-defying methods, they would still be led by the nose by Yang Cheng. Could it be that this brat was the reincarnation of Virokana, and his palm had turned into a five-finger mountain? However, they didn't dare to disobey the instructions of the elders. Even Meng Zhelong, who had lost his father and brother, didn't dare to say anything, let alone the others. After everyone left, only Meng Kaiyuan and Meng Ke were left to face Meng Qi. Elder Kaiyuan is ashamed. I actually caused the Meng family to suffer such a great calamity. Meng Kaiyuan said with a blush of shame. Meng Qi sighed. It can't be blamed on you. Our family is unlucky producing those evil creatures, which is why we brought that bastard Yang Cheng to cause trouble. The ancestors were also under pressure. There were great divine beings from above who came to give clear instructions that they were not allowed to cause trouble for Yang Cheng for no reason. Without sufficient evidence, they were not allowed to snatch the clan protecting spirit treasure. Even the ancestors don't dare to disobey. So how can we fight against them? I still underestimated that brat Yang Cheng. Ning Guangyao replied to me that Yang Cheng used 300 million tons of oil to import at half price to move number one's heart. Number one not dealing with our people this time is already an act of mercy, Meng Kaiyuan said dejectedly. Meng Ke was speechless. 300 million tons. That brat opened an oil field abroad. Meng Kaiyuan said with an ugly expression, to be able to make number one smile, there is no lack of capital. Just the fact that he was able to send a fleet to bombard Zhonghai and leave without anyone noticing is already unimaginable. No matter what, let's not bother with him for now. When things calm down, we will recuperate. One day, we will be able to catch that brat's weakness and take back my clan protecting spirit treasure. Lu Qingshan and his wife have already been released. That girl, Meng Yu, should be sent back soon. Let her know her shame and take good care of the gang. Meng Qi said in a deep voice. Also, like Meng Qin and Meng Zhixin, if they appear again, they will be killed without mercy. Yes, sir. Meng Kaiyuan lowered his head heavily, but his eyes were slightly red. He had personally killed his son and grandson who had grown up. No matter how cold-blooded he was, his heart would still ache. However, sacrifice was an unavoidable process in front of the family's great cause. At the same time, the Aribos had already docked at the pier in Zhonghai. Yang Cheng could not wait to go back and hug the chubby little girl. This little girl did not know how to call him and did not stick to him at all. It was really troublesome. He bid farewell to old Fanny, Cheryl, and other old friends. He originally wanted to ask them to stay in Zhonghai for a few days, but these old guys were used to being lazy and were not interested in the atmosphere in Zhonghai, so they politely declined. After saying goodbye, Yang Cheng was ready to disembark, but Hanya suddenly ran to Yang Cheng's side and said hesitantly, Master, that woman said that she wants to see you for the last time. She has something to talk to you about. Meng Yu? Yang Cheng frowned. This woman already said that she would be released. Why did she still refuse to leave? Bring her over. Meng Yu had already changed into a clean set of clothes and combed her hair. She looked a little thinner, and her posture was somewhat pitiful. Seeing Yang Cheng, the woman's eyes seemed to be much calmer than before. Hanya said that you have something to talk to me about. I'm still in a hurry to go back and hug my daughter. If you have something to say, just say it. Yang Cheng was not interested in staring at the woman. Meng Yu gritted her teeth. After a trace of struggle flashed on her face, she suddenly exhaled with a determined look. Plop! Meng Yu kneeled in front of Yang Cheng. This made Yang Cheng and Hanya shocked. Did this woman go crazy again? Mr. Yang, I want to become stronger. Meng Yu's eyes were firm and eager, looking at Yang Cheng with hope. Yang Cheng was stunned for a while, narrowed his eyes, and said, Why do you want to become stronger? Meng Yu's eyes were filled with deep hatred, like a swamp full of thorns. You're right. In front of the family's interests, I'm nothing. I can't accept this. Those good-for-nothings have relied on me to gain so many benefits today, but when I'm in danger, why do they have to treat me like this? I don't want to work for those people who make me feel disgusted anymore. I want to live for myself. I want to become stronger. I want to make them regret everything they did to me today. Yang Cheng finally understood. This woman's heart was broken by Meng, Kaiyuan, and the others. The feeling of being abandoned by this family made her love turn into hate. Seeing everything clearly, she was determined to take revenge on those people. Thinking of this, Yang Cheng laughed and said, "Today, the person who threw you into the sea to feed the sharks was me. Although today you may hate those Meng family members who disregarded your life, sooner or later, you will transfer your anger to me. At that time, when you feel that you are strong enough, maybe you will find a way to take revenge on me, right?" Chapter 14:17. Meng Yu widened her eyes. After being stunned for a moment, she nodded her head forcefully and said resentfully, "Yes, I will never forgive you for what you have done to me. I can't wait for you to die in front of me right now." Impudent. Hanya flashed forward and ruthlessly slapped Meng Yu's face. Meng Yu's face immediately swelled up. The corner of her lips was cut by her teeth, and blood flowed out. However, Meng Yu had no intention of retracting her words. She continued to stare at Yang Cheng viciously as if she wanted to peel off his skin. Yang Cheng stopped Hanya from slapping her a second time and said with interest, "I like the look in your eyes. You dare to say such words in front of me. It means that you are indeed unafraid of death. There's nothing you don't dare to do." Meng Yu was stunned. She didn't expect that Yang Cheng would actually reveal a satisfied expression after such an impudent act. "Do you know why I named this yacht Erebos?" Yang Cheng suddenly asked. Meng Yu shook her head blankly. Erebos, in the ancient language, means endless darkness. Yang Cheng grinned and said, "On this ship, I have killed countless people. Those who could survive are either my friends or my servants." "So, you agree? I like ambitious people to be my subordinates, because what I want is not a dog. What I want is a wolf that can bite and tear apart the enemy for me. I'm very satisfied with your temperament now. However, you must be mentally prepared. One day, when I feel that there is no longer a need for you to exist, I might directly erase you from this world." Although Yang Cheng had a smile on his face, it was like a gust of cold wind. Meng Yu nodded heavily. "I understand. Thank you, Mr. Yang. You should change the way you address me." Yang Cheng pointed at Hanya. "Call me master like her." Meng Yu's expression turned strange, but she still obediently said, "Master." She knew that this was asking her to put down any dignity. Yang Cheng smiled in satisfaction. He pulled out a short blade from Hanya's waist and threw it in front of Meng Yu. The sharp short blade reflected the cold night light. "Master, this is—" "Pick her up and cut your face. I want to see the bones. Draw a steel fork." "2 cuts will do," Yang Cheng said lightly. "Ah!" Meng Yu cried out involuntarily, her face deathly pale. Even if she had to humiliate herself by calling Yang Cheng master, it was far from comparable to having her destroy the beauty that she had been proud of since she was young. "If I don't destroy you completely, how can I be reborn? Why, do you still want to marry into a good family?" Yang Cheng teased. Meng Yu swallowed her saliva and slowly picked up the dagger. Her eyes were a little unfocused, and cold sweat dripped down her temples. This scene caused Hanya, who was watching from the side, to be in high spirits. She was looking forward to seeing a beautiful woman turn into an ugly monster in front of her. "I'll count to 3. If you don't beat your face up to the bone, then there's nothing to talk about," Yang Cheng said and raised his fingers. 1, 2. Meng Yu let out a shrill scream, like a hysterical wail. Shing shing. After 2 flashes of cold light, the woman's face was split open. At the bridge of his nose, his white bones could be seen. Fresh blood, like free tap water, began to gush out continuously. Meng Yu let out a painful scream. Although her eyes and mouth were not cut, she could imagine how ugly she was at this moment. Yang Cheng seemed to be prepared. He walked forward, pinched Meng Yu's mouth, and stuffed the pill in. Meng Yu only felt a comfortable and warm substance flow into her body. Her whole body felt warm, as if there was a flow of air flowing through her veins. Following that, her face felt numb and numb. After the pain was reduced, she began to feel nothing. Hanya, who was watching from the side, was also dumbfounded. Her eyes were shining as she looked at her master. She really wanted to know what kind of miracle pill Yang Cheng gave her to be able to turn white bones into vitality. Very good. You can even abandon your own appearance. I'll believe in your determination for now. The pill I gave you can repair your injuries and help you quickly improve your internal force. Since the elders of your main clan are able to step into the crossing tribulation stage, then your cultivation technique should be good. If you work hard, breaking through to the Xiantian realm within a year is not a problem. If your perception is good enough, stepping into the deity transformation stage is not surprising. Mengyu subconsciously touched her cut face. Unexpectedly, it was as smooth as before. This difference between heaven and hell made her cry with joy. She couldn't help but admire Yang Cheng for being able to torture her to death. Thank you, Master, Mengyu said this time with much smoothness. Yang Cheng used the lowest grade pill, the Bodhi pill. But for those cultivators who couldn't refine pills or didn't have the materials to refine pills, low-grade pills were precious. The Meng family didn't have the resources to give pills to these young people. After all, if they couldn't break through to the soul formation stage, it was equivalent to wasting the pills. However, Yang Cheng didn't care. He still had a lot of pills in his interspatial ring. Giving a bottle of low-grade pills to Mengyu to cultivate was not a big deal. Yang Cheng thought far ahead. He was very curious about the power behind the Meng family. If Meng, you could enter the soul formation stage and enter the real upper echelons of the Meng family, she might be able to help him find the answer. After explaining to Mengyu what to do next, Yang Cheng let Mengyu leave. As for the pill, it must be kept strictly confidential. Mengyu also knew that if this kind of good thing was discovered by the elders of the family, they would inevitably be suspicious, so she was very careful. After Mengyu left, Yang Cheng took out a bottle of red dew pills and a dragon cloud pill and gave them to Hanya. Don't look at me with those sour eyes. I know your loyalty. These pills are for you. Although you don't practice Hua Xia's internal force, the Japanese's Aikido is about using martial arts to enter the Tao. It also pays attention to the unity of heaven and man. If you practice Aikido to a profound level, it may not be a bad way out. These pills can help you improve your perception and absorption of heaven and earth's spiritual energy. Take it, Yang Cheng said with a smile. Hanya's heart was naturally very happy. She shyly took the pills. Her resentment towards Yang Cheng for helping Mengyu also dissipated. After dealing with these matters, Yang Cheng got off the ship and went to the dock. He drove the car that Hanya had already prepared and went back to the courtyard in the western suburbs. When he entered the house, the lights downstairs were still on, but there was no trace of anyone in the hall. Yang Cheng excitedly came to the second floor, but he just happened to see Tang Wan's figure carefully coming out of Lanlin's room and was about to close the door. Hearing the footsteps, Tang Wan also turned her head. When she saw Yang Cheng coming back, she revealed a happy look. She seemed to be relieved and said with a bit of resentment, "You finally came back. Why didn't you say in advance?" Yang Cheng walked in front of the woman and hugged her soft waist. "Why are you here? Isn't it because of you? You sent Qianni and Mingyu to the Mediterranean Sea. Lan Lan is with Min Wan. I just happened to be at home, so I came to help take care of the child." Tang Wan's voice was very soft. She pointed to the room and said with a smile, "I just wanted to take a look. She's really sleeping soundly. You, as a father, not being at home doesn't seem to affect her mood to sleep." Yang Cheng felt ashamed, but he still couldn't wait to poke his head into the room. On the big bed, the small body was habitually lying there, and the chubby face was also squeezed. Yang Cheng couldn't help but be unable to move his eyes away. Tang Wan was also a mother, so she could naturally feel Yang Cheng's father's satisfaction. This was something that no one could replace. Only those who had experienced the feelings for their children knew best. But because of this, Tang Wan slowly began to believe that Lin Ruoxi might have left Yang Cheng because of Lan Lan. Yang Cheng looked deeply for a while before closing the door. He didn't wake his daughter up. Tang Wan's eyes were like water as she teased. The little boy has become a father. He seems to have matured a lot and is more like a man. You're asking for a beating. One of Yang Cheng's hands slapped Tang Wan's plump buttocks. With a paw sound, the buttocks seemed to tremble a few times. Ing! Tang Wan's face immediately turned red. Her winter dress was actually very thin, and she was wearing smooth black lace stockings. The heat from Yang Cheng's big hand could be transmitted to every pore on her buttocks through the dress. It was extremely stimulating. Yang Cheng also felt the wonderful feeling of this palm. He lowered his head and saw the towering twin peaks on the woman's chest and the straight and beautiful calves under her skirt. He couldn't help but breathe heavily. Chapter 14:18. I'll make you a cup of lemonade. I brought my homemade lemon slices and wanted to give Lama a try. I'll let you try it first. Tang Wan noticed the passion in the man's eyes and pushed Yang Cheng away with a red face, wanting to run downstairs. How could Yang Cheng be willing to let go? He hugged the woman and pressed her against the wall of the corridor in a domineering manner. Tang Wan let out a soft cry, but her soft lips had already been bitten by Yang Cheng. A tongue forcefully broke through her teeth and swept across her mouth. The man's heavy breathing made Tang Wan feel a little dizzy. After a series of muddle-headed wet kisses, Tang Wan sensitively felt that her body actually had feeling. Her mouth was full of orchid fragrance, and her eyes were blurry. What's so good about lemonade? If I want a drink, I'll drink your saliva. Yang Cheng licked his lips and smiled evilly. Don't say that. So, Tang Wan felt that it was too vulgar, but she didn't know why her heart was beating wildly, as if she was very excited. Yang Cheng stuck out his tongue and slid it across the woman's smooth and soft face. Tang Wan's skin was as smooth as a young girl's. There was no foundation at all, and it was as delicate as white jade. After being licked by the man, Tang Wan's entire body quivered, and a trickle of water began to flow down her lower body. You want to say that I'm disgusting, but your body seems to like it very much. Lil Wan, you're really getting more and more naughty. Yang Cheng teased the beauty below him, feeling very pleased with himself. Tang Wan was a little sullen because of his provocation. She was about to lose her balance, yet he was still watching her make a fool of herself. She couldn't help but make up her mind. She stretched out a soft hand and grabbed towards the towering mass between Yang Cheng's legs. Oh! Yang Cheng cried out. It wasn't because of pain, but because that soft palm was covering his life force. It was extremely comfortable. Tang Wan blushed, and her almond-shaped eyes sparkled. Who told you to bully me? Believe it or not, I'll crush you. Yang Cheng grinned evilly. You want to fight violence with violence? All right, let's see who admits defeat first tonight. After that, Yang Cheng carried the woman's voluptuous body and rushed back to his room. It had been a while since they had been intimate. Naturally, it was like a bolt from the blue. Not long after, the whole room was filled with pink and rain clouds. Tang Wan, who had achieved certain results in her cultivation, was much stronger than before. She fought with Yang Cheng for more than 2 hours. She didn't know how many times her body convulsed, but she was finally defeated. Yang Cheng's bedsheet looked like it had been soaked in water. Neither of them wanted to lie on the bed. He carried Tang Wan to the balcony. The sky was dark, and no one would pass by the courtyard in the western suburbs. Yang Cheng sat on the deck chair and placed Tang Wan in his arms. Under the tranquil, starry sky, the night breeze blew, enjoying the soothing peace after the pleasure. Shaoan, can you not spray so much water in the future? Tomorrow when Min Wan washes the bedsheet, she'll definitely look at me with a strange expression. Yang Cheng pretended to be helpless and joked. Tang Wan didn't even have the strength to hit him. She rolled her eyes at him. It's not like I can control it. Who's like you? You only come once after 2 hours. Now that the two of them were honest with each other, there was nothing to hide, so they didn't have to be shy when they spoke. At this moment, Tang Wan happened to look at the mansion where Lin Roashi lived. She recalled what happened at the bar that night and said faintly, Yang Cheng, I went to look for Roashi tonight. Yang Cheng's relaxed expression froze for a moment. He revealed an unnatural awkwardness. After a long time, he smiled stiffly and asked, "Oh, what's wrong? Look at you." Tang Wan noticed that the man's heartbeat had changed. She narrowed her eyes and said, "You're pretending to be calm. You must be curious about what I said to her." Yang Chung blushed. If you know, why don't you say it?" Tang Wan pouted in a flirtatious manner. This kind of mischievous expression would never appear unless she was in front of the man she liked. "I just can't figure it out. Lin Ruoshi isn't a stupid woman. Even if she wants to have a Cold War with you because you're a playboy, there should be a limit to it. How could she really give up her position as the Empress? Occasionally, she would throw a tantrum at you and make you obediently stay by her side. What else could she do?" So I originally thought that she was waiting for a way out, and I went with the intention of giving her a move. After all, it's not good for the two of you. If you're not good, I'll feel uncomfortable as well. Tang Wan said gently. Yang Qing's heart felt warm. Tang Wan said it lightly, but it was a selfless sacrifice. "Guess where I found her?" Tang Wan asked. "How would I know? However, she's either at the company or at home. She's a workaholic, and this has never changed." Yang Chung smiled with some nostalgia. Back then, he often quarreled with Lin Ruoshi for overworking himself, but now, things have changed. Tang Wan shook her finger. "You guessed wrong. Tonight, she went to the bar where you first met, and she was drinking whiskey by herself." Yang Cheng's eyes narrowed, and he was pleasantly surprised. "Really? Don't be happy too early. At first, I also thought that she went there because she missed you. But she told me that she just wanted to make a final conclusion and end where she started. I could tell that she wasn't joking. She really cared. Lan Lan is 17's daughter." Yang Qing couldn't help but feel a trace of bitterness and sorrow. The flame of hope that had been ignited was also extinguished by the night wind. Tang Wan asked doubtfully, "There's one more thing. I think it's very strange." As she spoke, Tang Wan briefly recounted how Lin Ruoshi was intercepted by the three hoodlums and how she suddenly stomped on the man until he bled. "Why do I feel like she's a completely different person? Or rather, there's something more to her, something that she didn't have before," Tang Wan said in bewilderment. Yang Qing naturally knew what Tang Wan was talking about. How could he not understand? Back then in Beijing, Lin Ruoshi had killed more than 10 post-celestial stage martial artists by herself, and then fought with him in Hui Lin's backstage resting room. These were all unimaginable things, but Yang Chung didn't ask too much. If the woman didn't want to say it, he wouldn't force her to say it. Moreover, Lin Ruoshi might not know it herself. Chatting with Tang Wan, the two of them slept on the balcony until dawn. Fortunately, there wouldn't be any trouble with a cold, but when they woke up, they felt that it was a little absurd. Mo Qianni went to the Mediterranean Sea, and for the time being, Yang Chung also wanted the women to focus on their cultivation, so he didn't let them rush back. Tang Wan gladly took over Mo Qianni's work and was responsible for taking care of Lan Lan with Min Wan. After all, she had single-handedly brought up Tang Tang, such a problematic girl. Tang Wan was more experienced in taking care of children, so it was very easy for her to have a good relationship with Lan Lan. Moreover, as the chairman of the Maple Forest Group, her working hours weren't particularly long. Other than many important decisions, she was usually free, which was more convenient than Mo Qianni. In fact, the chubby little girl was already very familiar with Tang Wan, so she didn't have any objection. Anyway, Tang Wan's concubine's cooking was delicious, and she had a lot of money to buy toys for herself. That was enough. As for Yang Qing's return home, Lan Lan didn't find it strange. This father was always strange, and she didn't know what he was doing every day. She still preferred to play games with the more smart concubines like Xiao, Qi Qing, and Jane. As for concubine Anxin, she was too clumsy. It was better to ask her to play with her when they went to the amusement park. Yang Chung stayed at home for 2 days. In addition to playing with Lan Lan and teaching her martial arts, he was thinking about how to restore his cultivation. He even refrained from enjoying the pleasure with women at night, even if there was no Lin Ruoshi to control him now. To restore his cultivation, Yang Chung couldn't wait. There were always people eyeing him covetously, and he was unable to resist. The feeling was uncomfortable. 2 days later, Mother Wang suddenly ran over early in the morning with a brocade box. She sighed awkwardly and said, "Young master, Miss asked me to pass this to you." Yang Chung took it and looked at it in puzzlement. It was a jade-like fengxiang bracelet. This bracelet represented the mistress of a Yang family. This magical protective artifact was exchanged from Lin Ruoshi to him. The meaning couldn't be clearer. Yang Cheng tried to calm himself down. After receiving it, he put it directly into the space ring. Since Lin Ruoshi didn't want to wear it, he couldn't force her. He had already said to let go, and he couldn't go back on his words. However, Yang Cheng didn't intend to give it to other women. This matter made Yang Cheng a little depressed. However, that night, Xiao Qiqing and Jane ran over excitedly and brought Yang Cheng an exciting news. Chapter 14:19. The early spring sun was already warm, spreading a faint golden radiance. On the balcony of the second floor of the mansion, Tang Wan brewed a pot of English black tea and gave it to Yang Cheng, Jane, and Xiao Qiqing to savor. These days, other than going to the company to deal with some necessary business, Tang Wan didn't return home. She lived with Yang Cheng and his daughter, taking care of Lan Lan and enjoying the rare intimate time. Because her mother was here, Tang Tang would always come to visit. Of course, it was inevitable that she would get along well with Lan Lan. Although it had only been 2 years since she first got to know Yang Cheng, Tang Tang had matured a lot. She was no longer the crazy, problematic high school girl from back then. When she brought Lan Lan out to play, she looked like a big sister. This made Tang Wan always show a satisfied and happy expression, as if she treated the two girls as her own. This made Yang Cheng feel helpless. This woman's motherly love was overflowing. At this moment, Yang Cheng was holding a piece of news material that Jane had brought. It was a report from various newspapers that Jane had extracted from the internet. There were pictures in the report. The content was a red and gold object the size of a pigeon's egg. It looked a bit like a human heart. Looking at the densely packed English and Korean words, Yang Cheng asked curiously, "Buddhist heart Saraira, discovered by Korean archaeologists? What is this, a Saraira?" "It's not as simple as a Saraira." Jane took a sip of the black tea and gave Tang Wan a thumbs up. She explained, "Usually after a senior monk passes away, the Saraira left behind is a Buddhist bone Saraira. In essence, the Buddhist bone Saraira is made up of many phosphates and carbonates. It can also be said that it is the product of carbon rearrangement under high temperatures. However, this newly discovered Buddha heart Saraira was formed from the heart of an enlightened monk. This discovery has shocked the Buddhist associations around the world. You and Chinger have been studying it for so many days. Do you think that this Saraira can help me subdue the chaos?" Yang Cheng found it unbelievable. Xiao Qiqing said sternly, "Hubby, if this Saraira is real, then it's very likely that it's not just an ordinary Saraira. I once read some books about Buddhist cultivators in ancient times. The real Western Buddhist sages, great Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and even golden arhats all walked the path of Mahayana Buddhism. The Mahayana Buddhist Dharma emphasized that achieving the Tao by oneself was a small Tao, while saving all living beings was the great Tao. Those who attained the great Tao and delivered all living beings from suffering would be able to attain the Zhang's sixth golden body, immortal and indestructible, able to change and transform, vast and divine. In other words, a true Buddhist great venerate wouldn't just have their bones turn into Sarairas. Their organs, limbs, and bones would all transform into Buddhist golden bodies. The Buddha nature was the Buddha heart. In order to cultivate the golden body of Buddha, the first step was to cultivate the Buddha heart. If this Saraira was really the Buddha heart, then it was very likely that it was left behind by a Buddhist great venerate who hadn't attained immortality and indestructibility. Even if he was already dead, the Buddha heart could still be left behind. It was enough to show that it already had the Buddhist karma to deliver all living beings from suffering. As I said before, although chaos can devour all living beings and is almost immortal and indestructible, it's ultimately too violent. It can't abandon its mortal thoughts and doesn't understand the heavenly Tao. Therefore, it can only be ranked together with the other 3 ferocious beasts as the 4 great ancient ferocious beasts. It's hard for it to truly be conferred as a god. If hubby could have the Buddha heart condensed from the Mahayana Buddhist Dharma to protect your body, you might be able to suppress chaos. After all, chaos hasn't recovered its heaven-reaching ferocious power from ancient times. Yang Cheng's eyes lit up. Being able to meet Xiao Qi-Ching was indeed a great favor from the heavens. So there was such a saying. He did have a chance to go to the hidden clans to read the ancient books and records passed down from ancient times. Fortunately, Xiao Qi-Ching told him. But then, Yang Cheng thought for a while and frowned. I'm worried that it's not fake. After all, you haven't seen it with your own eyes. Jane shrugged. This relic was sent to the nearest research institute for testing as an unknown object. The Korean scientist who tested it, Zhang Ru, happened to be my student. I've already asked her, and she wouldn't dare to lie to me. It's hard to determine the specific age of this relic. It was found in a noble graveyard more than 2,000 years ago, but the relic was obviously formed earlier than that era. Although it was found in Busan, Korea, the tomb was the tomb of an ancient general of Hwaxia. It should be a general at that time who took this Buddha heart relic to protect his own safety. Xiao Qi-Ching giggled. Hubby, do you know that Korea has been making a big fuss? They said that the Buddha heart relic is in Korea, and the root of Buddhism is in Korea. And the Koreans also said that Vairocana is also from Korea. Guanyin, Dipankara, and even Shaolin's patriarch Bodhidharma are from Korea. I'm dying of laughter. Yang Cheng covered his forehead. He didn't think there was anything strange about this. Korea would definitely deny the news that this general was from Hwaxia. How could the Koreans give up such a good opportunity to show the prestige of their country? However, with the news being reported by the major media all over the world, Yang Cheng felt that it was more difficult to deal with it. This thing, if it's real, it might indeed have extraordinary power. After all, the ancients would only put valuable things in the tomb. And at that time, cultivators didn't live in seclusion like they do now. It's not impossible for some high-ranking officials and dignitaries to get some treasures. Yang Cheng sighed. It's just that, now, the whole world is staring at this Buddha heart relic. If I go and snatch it directly, it might cause trouble. Just thinking about the Buddhist association all over the world looking for him to reason with, Yang Cheng felt like he was going to collapse. He couldn't possibly become the enemy of all the Buddhist believers in the world, right? Xiao Qi-Ching rolled her eyes cutely. Idiot hubby, do you only have robbing and killing in your mind? Can't you approach the relic legitimately? Legitimately? Yang Cheng blinked. Ching Air, you want me to buy it? That's too ridiculous. No matter if it ends up in Korea or some holy land of Buddhism, they won't sell this thing. There are Buddhist associations all over the world, and no one is willing to give it up. I think in the end, the Korean government can only place it in some important Buddhist temple. Since that's the case, hubby, why don't you contact the Korean government directly and let them take a closer look at it? Xiao Qi-Ching smiled mischievously. It's fine if it's useless, but if it's useful, then wouldn't I have to snatch it away? Yang Cheng spread his hands. At this time, Jane shook her finger. My dear husband, Yang Cheng, don't worry. I have already thought of countermeasure. Looking at Jane's secretive smile, Yang Cheng felt a headache coming on. What the hell were these two women thinking of? But no matter what, he still had to go to Korea. Yang Cheng didn't want to let go of any opportunity. If he didn't recover his cultivation, God knew when Hong Meng would come to seek revenge and rob him. He couldn't stop them. Jane also went with Yang Cheng. Firstly, she wanted to see her student, Zhang Ru, and, secondly, she was the one who could help the most. Because Xiao Qi-Ching didn't have much ability to protect herself, and she was afraid that Mother Wang would worry, she had to give up. Anyway, they could contact each other by phone at any time. With Tang Wan taking care of them at home, Yang Cheng didn't think that Lan Lan would need his useless father. It was just a few days away. Apart from saying that she wanted a lot of gifts with a serious face, the chubby little girl didn't say anything else, such as, Daddy, I will miss you very much, and so on. This made Yang Cheng feel hurt. Which bastard said that daughters were sweet little cotton-padded jackets? The plane was flying to Seoul. Naturally, Yang Cheng couldn't help but think of Jinxiu. This girl called him once before the new year, but when Yang Cheng called back, the person who answered was Unyum. Later, Jinxiu didn't call again. Yang Cheng himself had things coming one after another, so he didn't care too much. After all, he wasn't a person who liked to call, and he didn't have the habit of calling his women. He didn't know if Lin Ruoshi had called Jinxiu, but he didn't hear the woman mention it, so he guessed that she didn't. At this moment, Jinxiu didn't call again. Yang Cheng thought that the girl should be busy in college, or she listened to her grandfather's words and decided to marry Kim Jip. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The little girl who used to be a vendor would have such a day. Yang Cheng couldn't wait to see how she was. However, Yang Cheng didn't call in advance to inform her. Instead, after flying Seoul with Jane, he asked her student, Zhang Ru, to pick them up and then give Jinxiu a surprise. Chapter 1420. A day later, the plane landed smoothly at Seoul Airport in the afternoon. Although it was the beginning of spring, Seoul was still chilly. Yang Cheng bought a first-class ticket, not because he had too much money to spend, but because he didn't like the people around him sneaking glances at Jane from time to time. Perhaps it was because he had opened his heart and treated Jane as his woman. Yang Chen's vinegar jar was much bigger than before. Jane had long gotten used to being the center of attention from the people around her. She was rather happy with Yang Chen's narrow-mindedness. She acted as if she didn't know anything and chatted and laughed along the way. When she had nothing to say, she would take out her modified tablet and start writing and drawing. For Jane, her time was very valuable because some inadvertent thinking was likely to become a great invention. Of course, these inventions did not mean that they would be made public to the world. After getting off the plane, Yang Cheng in a black jacket and Jane in a moose-colored British trench coat quickly attracted a lot of attention in the airport. Just like an international superstar walking on the street, it was inevitable that people would look at them, but this superstar was holding hands with an Asian man who didn't deserve her. Such an eye-catching combination was naturally easy to be seen by the people who came to pick them up. Teacher, I'm here." A woman's excited shout came from behind the crowd, not far away. Soon, a woman in a white lady's suit and a black knee-length skirt ran to Yang Cheng and Jane. The woman looked about 30 years old. Her hair was tied up behind her head, and she didn't wear any makeup. Her face was small, and her facial features were delicate. She belonged to the type that wasn't stunning at first glance, but was more comfortable to look at. It was as if the people in the entire airport terminal had disappeared. The woman was excited, and her eyes were even a little wet as she rushed over. "Teacher Alexander, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for a long time." Since she knew that Jane's surname was Alexander, this woman was naturally Jane's student, Zhang Ru. Although she was very excited, she still ran to Jane and stood still, as if she didn't dare to take the initiative to hug Jane. But Jane smiled gracefully and went forward to give her student a hug. "Zhang Ru, long time no see. You haven't changed much." "Old." Before Zhang Ru could speak again, Jane suddenly covered Zhang Ru's mouth with one hand. Zhang Ru's eyes widened. She did not understand what he meant. Jane cutely bared her fangs and looked around. She said, "You're already in your 30s, right? How old do you think I am? People might think that I've undergone plastic surgery to look like this. This is Korea. I don't want to attract any weird looks." Although Jane was joking, Zhang Ru still nodded obediently and spoke very softly. "Teacher, the car is ready. Please follow me to the parking lot." Zhang Ru looked at Yang Cheng strangely. "You are—" In fact, Zhang Ru was very puzzled just now. Why would Teacher Alexander, who was like a goddess in her heart, be holding onto a man who didn't seem to match her huaxia? "I'm your teacher's man." Yang Cheng grinned. Jane happily held Yang Cheng's hand and said, "Zhang Ru, his name is Yang Cheng. You have to respect him as much as you respect me in the future. Don't treat him like a younger brother, just because he's younger than you." Yang Cheng touched his forehead. What kind of analogy is this? Zhang Ru's eyes were actually a little worried, but she still forced a smile and invited the two to leave together. Yang Cheng had already sent someone to book the presidential suite at the Hilton Hotel in Seoul. It was only a short distance away from the upcoming Buddha Heart Relic opening ceremony. On the way to the hotel, Zhang Ru glanced at the rearview mirror from time to time. She saw Yang Cheng and Jane talking in a language that she did not understand. Jane would smile from time to time. It was obvious that she was whispering sweet nothings to each other. Zhang Ru frowned. Teacher, Zhang Ru could not help but interrupt and asked in English, why are you interested in the Buddha heart relic? Are you going to do some research on it? I remember that you're not very interested in religion and history. Oh, it's Yang Chung who's coming this time. I'm just accompanying him to take a look. He's more interested in the relic, Jane replied. Zhang Ru forced a smile and asked, Mr. Yang, for what you just said to Teacher Jane, it was Italian, right? Are you an Italian returnee? Not really. I've been to many countries, but I've only settled down in Huaxia in the past 2 years. How could Yang Chung not notice Zhang Ru's hostility towards him? Although he did not quite understand, he was not interested in arguing with her. He answered whatever she asked. Oh, where do you live and what do you do? Zhang Ru asked again. Yang Chung smiled. I live in Zhonghai now, and I'm unemployed. I say, Miss Zhang Ru, why do you look like you're checking my household registration? When Zhang Ru heard the 2 words, Zhonghai, a strange look flashed in her eyes. She smiled slightly and said, Nothing. I'm just curious about how great the man chosen by my most admired teacher will be. As a person from Huaxia, I still admire Mr. Yang's ability. So you're from Huaxia. I thought you were Korean. Yang Chung showed a surprised look. Zhang Ru frowned. Why? Do I look like a Korean? No, it's just that the way you look at me is like a Korean. You look down on me. Yang Chung pretended to be sad. Zhang Ru blushed immediately. She was afraid that Jane would be unhappy, so she quickly denied it and said with a smile, Of course not. I'm just curious about Mr. Yang's background. I won't ask any more. Jane was smart. She knew that Yang Chung was a little unhappy that Zhang Ru always stared at him like a thief. She tried to smooth things over. Dear, Zhang Ru is a very good girl. When she came to Imperial College London 3 years ago, she spent half a year to enter the elite class that I specially taught. Her results are very good. Thank you for the compliment, teacher. Zhang Ru was a little shy, but happy. Yang Chun, on the other hand, felt a little emotional. 3 years ago, Jane was just a high school student who had just enrolled in school. But now, she was a special professor of many famous schools in England and America. She only taught the most elite students because ordinary students from famous universities couldn't understand what she was saying. It was precisely because she was such a genius that Jane's students admired her very much. All right, Zhang Ru, didn't you say that you went back to Huaxia to work? Why are you in Seoul? I wouldn't know if I didn't read the newspaper, Jane asked curiously. Zhang Ru's expression was slightly complicated. She smiled faintly and said, I was the one who volunteered to be an exchange scholar to work in Korea for a few years. I want to do more international cooperation projects. Although they could tell that she was not sincere, Yang Chung and Jane would not ask too much. After all, it was a private matter. In order to be as low-key as possible and not attract attention, Yang Chung did not send anyone to Seoul. Zhang Ru was the main researcher of the Buddha Heart Sarira, and Jane was an internationally renowned scholar. It was a piece of cake for them to bring Yang Chun into the ceremony to take a look at the Sarira, so there was no problem of getting close to it. However, there was no one to help them. They had to do the hotel check-in themselves. After a series of procedures, Zhang Ru realized that the 2 of them were sleeping in the same room. This time, Zhang Ru could not help but signal to Jane that she wanted to talk to her. Jane was a little confused, but she still followed Zhang Ru to a corner of the hotel lobby. She asked, What's wrong, Zhang Ru? Teacher, how can you sleep in the same room with him? Zhang Ru asked anxiously. Jane was a little confused. Why not? He is my lover. No. Teacher, even if he is your boyfriend, how can a distinguished woman like you sleep with him casually? Even if you don't sleep in the same bed, you can't. Teacher, I am a married person. I have more experience in this aspect than you. It's okay to be in a relationship with a man, but you can't do it casually. It will ruin your reputation. Zhang Ru advised worriedly. Hearing this, Jane could not help but laugh. Zhang Ru, thank you for your kindness. I know you think he looks too ordinary and doesn't deserve me, but what I want to say is, I have known him for more than 8 years. I didn't choose a boyfriend randomly. We love each other, so you can rest assured that I am not blinded by love. After saying this, Jane turned around and walked away, leaving Zhang Ru standing in the same place with a stunned face. Chapter 14:21. 8 years. Zhang Ru said bitterly. 8 years ago, I was just a child. Teacher, you're not even 10 years old. What do you know about love? Teacher, even if you're immersed in the river of love, you can't deceive yourself like this. Who would believe such a lie? Although Zhang Ru was Jane's student for more than a year, they only met once or twice a week. Most of the time, it was in class. Although she admired Jane, she didn't really know much about her identity. Therefore, she only knew that Jane was the Princess of Wales. She couldn't accept that a man who didn't look like a successful person would be so close to Jane. Little girls always lost their way in love. Even someone as wise as Teacher Jane was no exception. Zhang Ru thought. She looked up and saw Yang Cheng and Jane walking into the elevator together. Zhang Ru felt even more uncomfortable. She had always regarded Jane as her most respected idol. She couldn't tolerate a man who was completely unworthy of her being with Jane. Moreover, he was a jobless who didn't even dare to explain his background. Biting her lip, Zhang Ru felt that she couldn't ignore it. She took out her phone and dialed a number that she hadn't dialed for a long time. It didn't take long for the phone to be connected. There was a surprised voice of a man on the other side. Xiao Ru? Who else could it be? Zhang Ru's tone was very cold. The man smiled gently. It's really you. I just didn't expect you to be willing to call me. How are you recently? Is work very hard? Zhang Ru's face showed a trace of unnaturalness. She took a deep breath and said indifferently, Don't worry about it, Mr. Director. I'll make it short. I need your help with something. If you're willing, then do it. If not, then forget it. The man smiled helplessly. I knew it. You must have something to ask me. Why? Do you think I'm too troublesome? Well, I'm hanging up. Hey, don't. The man immediately stopped her with a bitter smile. I was just saying. It was a slip of the tongue. If you want to talk to me, just say it. As long as it's not against the law, I'll try my best to help you. The corner of Zhang Ru's mouth twitched slightly. There was a trace of pride in her eyes. Help me find a man named Yang Cheng who lives in Zhonghai. He should be in his 20s, and he's a returnee. What? Yang Cheng. The man suddenly cried out involuntarily. Why are you making a fuss? Zhang Ru frowned. Do you know him? The man pondered for a moment before saying, I know him. The one who went to your place in Daehan must be him. You. Why do you want to investigate Yang Cheng? It's good that you know. Tell me everything about him. Who is he? Zhang Ru asked immediately. The man sighed. Xiao Ru, it's not that I want to hide it from you on purpose, but this person. I can't tell you where he came from, because even if I tell you, I'll definitely be lying to you. Enough. Zhang Ru's eyes looked like they were about to spit fire. I knew you didn't take me seriously at all. You were like this in the past, and you're still like this now. You always talk mysteriously, as if I'm trying to get information from you. Aren't you just a small bureau chief? Why you talk so mysteriously all the time? Let me tell you, if you don't tell me, I'll investigate it myself. The more you act like this, the more suspicious this person is. Xiao Ru, listen to me. This person is very dangerous. You must not provoke him. Without waiting for the man to finish, Zhang Ru had already hung up the phone. She was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down. Dangerous? A man who dared to approach Jane must be an extremely daring person. How could he not be dangerous? If he was a rich businessman or the son of a rich family with a decent background, he would not dare to say his identity. Could it be some underworld figure? Thinking of this, Zhang Ru was frightened. Could it be that he had taken a fancy to Jane's background and wanted to plot something? Right, Buddha Heart Sarira? Her teacher said that this Yang Cheng came for the Buddha Heart Sarira. Could it be that he wanted to take advantage of her and her teacher's convenience to secretly lay his hands on the Sarira? Although she felt that it was extremely daring, she had to be on guard. After all, he was a person that person said was dangerous. Just as Zhang Ru was panicking and did not know how to deal with it, a woman's voice called her name from not far away. Professor Zhang, why are you here? Zhang Ru raised her head and saw a valiant Korean female police officer in a police uniform walking over from the main entrance. The female police officer looked to be in her 40s, but she maintained her appearance well. Her lips were red, her teeth were white, and her eyebrows were slender. She wore a police cap and looked very neat. Captain Huang. Zhang Ru smiled, and her eyes lit up. This female police officer was the captain of the Seoul Metropolitan Police Department's Special Security Department, Huang Xiuyan. As a woman, to be able to become a captain in Seoul, she definitely had extraordinary workability. As Zhang Ru was the main researcher of the Buddha Heart Sarara, and the main guards of the Buddha Heart Sarara were the Special Security Department led by Huang Xiuyan, the two of them naturally knew each other. It's like this. My teacher, the chief of the British Royal Academy of Sciences, Professor Jane, came to Seoul today and also wants to take a look at the Buddha Heart Sarara. I just brought my teacher here to stay, Zhang Ru said. When Huang Xiuyan heard this, her eyes were filled with anticipation. The chief of the Royal Academy of Sciences? That's an amazing person. No wonder Professor Zhang could be qualified for the research of the Buddha Heart Sarara at such a young age. It turns out that you're a great teacher and a great disciple. Huang Xiuyan had already started to silently decide if she should report this to the chief police officer, or perhaps invite Jane to appear at the opening ceremony as an official guest. This would once again increase the prestige of the opening ceremony in Korea. This was the effect that Zhang Ru wanted. She immediately pretended to be distressed and said, Captain Huang, there's something that's troubling me. I hope that you can help me. Oh, Professor Zhang, feel free to mention it. We'll do our best to help the research team, Huang Xiuyan said seriously. Zhang Ru immediately mentioned Yang Chen's matter. She guessed that this man might have bewitched Jane and was actually after the Buddha's Heart Sarara. However, Jane was very protective of him and hoped that the security department could provide surveillance and protection. Huang Xiuyan's face suddenly turned ugly, as if something had particularly touched her. Professor Zhang, do you know why I'm here? Zhang Ru shook her head. Let me introduce you. Huang Xiuyan gestured for Zhang Ru to follow and walked to the center of the hotel lobby. There were a few monks and nuns in Buddhist robes, as well as some officials in suits and leather shoes, discussing something. More than a dozen bodyguards were guarding the area, and the police were also standing guard around the area. Among the crowd, a nun who looked to be in her 50s, wearing a nun hat, seemed to have the highest status and was quite dignified. She was fiddling with the prayer beads in her hand and was talking to the officials. Behind the nun was a slightly short and fat monk who looked to be in his 50s. He looked to be in his 50s, with an average appearance and kind eyes. The other monks, whose status was obviously lower, couldn't get a word in edgewise. Everyone, let me introduce you to the main researcher of the Buddha Heart Sarara this time, Professor Zhang Ru, who detected the origin of the Sarara. Huang Xiuyan introduced. Ba, Professor Zhang is really a fated person in our Buddhist sect. On behalf of my fellow Taoists, I thank you, Professor, for finding the Buddha's heart for our Buddhist sect, the nun said with a smile. Zhang Ru immediately returned the greeting. Abbess is too kind. Zhang Ru is just doing her duty. The Buddha Heart Sarara was discovered by the archaeological team. Huang Xiuyan introduced. This is the president of the Korean Buddhist Association, Abbess Yu Lian. Behind her is the director of the association, Master Zi Hao. The rest of you are also Buddhist monks of the Republic of Korea. These monks were originally staying in their own hotels, but they will be staying at the Hilton Hotel tonight. Why is that? Zhang Ru knew that these monks were far richer than she imagined, so they usually made their own arrangements. Huang Xiuyan whispered, To tell you the truth, I was planning to tell you tonight, Professor Zhang. During the Buddha Heart Relic opening ceremony, we received a threatening letter from the underground terrorist organization North Bio, saying that they want to take away the relic. North Bio? Zhang Ru had never heard of it. Yes, Professor, you definitely don't understand, but such an organization does exist. Our Special Security Department has already gathered the armed police and the army to set up an ambush. But these important monks and officials who will be attending the ceremony, if they're separated, it will be difficult to protect them, so we decided to gather them at a few designated hotels. The Hilton Hotel's geographical location is relatively safe, so we let these masters stay here. Professor Zhang, you can also stay here later. The room is already empty for you. Chapter 1422. When Zhang Ru heard this, she suddenly thought of something. Captain Huang, You mean that Yang Chung? Yes, I want to thank Professor Zhang for informing me. I will definitely send someone to keep an eye on him and immediately go to investigate his background, Huang Xiuyan said. Zhang Ru didn't relax much. She didn't expect that there would be a hidden whirlpool at the opening ceremony. After all, she was just a woman, alone in a foreign land. Zhang Ru suddenly felt a little scared at the same time in the Hilton presidential suite. Yang Chung was lying on the comfortable big bed, looking sideways at Jane tidying up her appearance in front of the mirror. He couldn't help but smile and said, "You're already beautiful enough. What else do you need to tidy up?" Jane combed her amber-colored hair and tidied up her scarf and collar in a professional and elegant manner. This is an attitude of being responsible for one's appearance, and also a respect for outsiders as a lady. After Jane finished tidying up, she turned around happily and said with a smile, "Okay, let's go find your little beauty, Jinxiu." Yang Chung said unnaturally, "Why do you say in such a tone? Jinxiu is like my sister." "Really?" Jane didn't believe it. Yang Chung wanted to say really, but when he saw Jane's beautiful eyes that were like a blue lake, revealing the slyness and wisdom, his heart was a little drumming, and he didn't know how to open his mouth. It was as if something buried deep in his heart, something that he didn't want to reveal, had been seen through. Jane showed an expression of, "I knew it," and didn't say much. She pulled up Yang Chung and kissed the man's face. "Let's go, don't be in a daze." Yang Chung nodded gloomily. In front of this woman, he was always at a disadvantage. At this moment, Yang Cheng's cell phone rang. Looking at the number, Yang Chung was stunned. He picked it up and asked, "Why is it you? What's going on with the Meng family?" A gentleman's voice came from the other side. It was Deputy Director Jiang Xiaobai. "That, Mr. Yang, it's not about the Meng family." "Then what is it?" Yang Chung was puzzled. "He didn't do anything." Jiang Xiaobai was a little embarrassed and said, "It's my private affairs." Yang Chung suspected that he had heard wrongly and said with interest, "Your private affairs? What does your private affairs have to do with me?" "It's like this, Mr. Yang. Have you seen a woman named Zhang Ru?" "Her face is small and pretty," Jiang Xiaobai asked softly. "Zhang Ru? How do you know who I'm meeting?" Yang Chen frowned. Even if he couldn't use his divine sense, he shouldn't have been tracked so easily. Jiang Xiaobai sighed and said, "Jiang Xiaobai can't help." Xiaobai, the corners of Yang Chung of his mouth twitched several times, and finally, couldn't help but laugh. "Xiaobai are of Yang. Yang are of Yang. Chung Jiang Xiaobai smiled bitterly on the other end of the phone. "Mr. Yang, it's true. Zhang Ru and I are both from the same hometown in the East Province. We met in college and got married after 4 years of dating. However, maybe because of work, she felt that I didn't take care of the family enough and didn't open my heart to her, so she alienated me. A few years ago, she went to England to study and then returned to work for less than 2 months before she asked to go to the Seoul Research Institute." When Yang Chun heard this, almost had an idea. Jiang Xiaobai was the focus of the security department. How could it be possible to let his wife know all about his work? It was inevitable to be mysterious. Zhang Ru was also the kind of suspicious character. She naturally felt that her husband was deliberately hiding something from her. "I didn't take her seriously." "Are you divorced?" To be exact, it's separation," Jiang Xiaobai said embarrassedly. Yang Qing suddenly felt that he and this deputy director Jiang were a bit in the same boat. The difference was that there were many women around him, and he was a bachelor. "Tell me, why are you looking for me?" Yang Qing's tone was also a bit euphemistic. Jiang Xiaobai immediately told him about Zhang Ru's opinion of Yang Cheng and said, "Mr. Yang, Xiaoru is a suspicious person, but she is not a bad woman. She may value Princess Jane too much, so she will do something that will not make you happy. But, all right, I understand. For your sake, I won't do anything to her unless she does something I can't stand. If that's the case, she can't blame me. This is Korea. If I want to kill someone, it's a piece of cake. Even the heavens can't stop me," Yang Chun said with a smile. Jiang Xiaobai swallowed his saliva and wanted to say something, but Yang Chung hung up the phone. Jane had been listening to the phone by the side, and now she was laughing her head off. "I didn't expect Zhang Ru to have such a marriage. That director Jiang is a good person. Yang Cheng shrugged. There is always a great woman behind a successful man. I just hope that kid doesn't become a counterexample. Talking and laughing, the two walked out of the hotel hand in hand, found a taxi, and went directly to the Park family's mansion in the Gangnam district of Seoul. After getting in the car, Yang Chung and Jane looked at each other with a tacit understanding. Found out. Jane said with a smile, my students are quite fast. It seems that they got the police to keep an eye on us. Jane, who had received professional training, had a very basic ability to discover that someone was following them. You really got shot while lying down. What a good student you taught. Yang Chung smiled bitterly and said, I could have quietly approached the Buddha's heart Sarira, but now it's going to be a little troublesome. Doesn't this mean that my students are very concerned about me as a teacher? Jane said proudly. Yang Chung helplessly scratched the woman's straight nose and was too lazy to pay attention to her. Anyway, everything had to wait until he saw the Buddha's heart Sarira. At present, he didn't even dare to confirm where the Sarira was. More than half an hour later, just in the evening, the car stopped in front of the Park family's mansion. When Yang Chung walked to the door, the bodyguard at the door was already in front of him and asked in Korean, May I ask who you are looking for, sir? Because the previous bodyguards had been replaced, the new bodyguard didn't recognize Yang Chung. Tell your Miss Jinxiu that Yang Chung is looking for her, Yang Chung said calmly. The bodyguards communicated through the walkie-talkie. Soon, the door was opened, but it wasn't Jinxiu who came out to greet them, but her maid, Eunyoung. Seeing Yang Chung and Jane standing outside the door, Eunyoung was obviously startled. A complicated look flashed in her eyes, but she still smiled gently and said, Mr. Yang, Miss Jane, I didn't expect the two of you to come suddenly. Welcome, please come in. As the benefactors of the Park family, there was no reason not to let Yang Chung and Jane in. Arriving at the familiar hall of the Park family, Yang Chung looked around. Why? Is Jinxiu not at home? Eunyoung lowered her head and said, Mr. Yang, Miss is listening to Master's homework in the study. Maybe, before she could finish, Park Cheon's loud laughter came from upstairs. Ha! Mr. Yang, Dr. Jane, it's a sin to be late for such a distinguished guest. Park Cheon, dressed in a gray wool sweater, walked down the stairs. His face was flushed, and he was clearly in good spirits. The elixir given by Yang Chung was enough for him to live to 100 years old. Behind Park Cheon, Yang Chung finally saw a familiar figure. It had been half a year since they last met, and compared to before, Jinxiu had become a slender and elegant young lady. Her jet black hair was tied up in a simple ponytail, and beneath her bangs was a classic oval-shaped face with delicate features that exuded a spiritual charm like a spring in the mountains. After the childishness had faded, the reserved and elegant features of a lady from a wealthy family were revealed. Dressed in a simple yet lively chiffon dress, the girl looked like a princess from the Eastern Kingdom. She was no longer the delinquent girl who sold fried skewers on the street. Putting aside the difference in temperament and figure, Jinxiu, who was not even 20 years old, was not inferior to Lin Ruoshi in terms of facial features. This caused Yang Chung to be momentarily dazed. It was not because she was too beautiful, but because he did not expect the gap between her and her past self to be so huge. In the past, Jinxiu was considered a little beauty, but now, she was a real beauty. Sure enough, the influence of the environment was very important. Park Cheon must have put in a lot of effort to bring his precious granddaughter into the upper class. In less than half a year, he was able to make such a huge change in Jinxiu. However, Yang Chung felt that the current Jinxiu seemed to be missing something. Jinxiu, Mr. Yang and Dr. Jane are here to see you. They are not ordinary people. You should thank them. Park Cheon smiled. Jinxiu's bright eyes lingered on Yang Chung for a while, but she did not show much excitement. Instead, she smiled gently at Yang Chung and Jane and nodded gently. Mr. Yang, Dr. Jane, it's been a while. Yang Chung felt as if his heart was being squeezed by something. Jinxiu's voice was cold and distant. It was an extremely cold emotion. It was a polite greeting. There was no joy in it all. Yang Chung knew what he was missing. It was a passionate shout of Brother Yang. It was a hug that rushed over excitedly. How could this be? The beauty in front of him was Junxiu, but she was no longer Junxiu. Yang Cheng felt his heart suffocate. He subconsciously clenched his fists, and his eyes were burning as if he had a fishbone stuck in his throat. Junxiu, are you all right? Why did you suddenly become so obedient and call me Mr. Yang? Yang Cheng tried to speak calmly and forced a smile. It's only right. Mr. Yang is my grandfather's savior. This is the respect I deserve. Junxiu was still smiling faintly. She did not reject Yang Cheng's gaze. A wave of fear struck Yang Cheng's heart. Yang Cheng was afraid. He was afraid that Junxiu had left him. He could not accept this.